a mad one for me. And happy Easter to everyone who celebrates the holiday. And John, welcome back. It's Sunday. It's Crime Theory. We've got a few little topics to get through. And then I'd quite like to ask you some more about some interrogations, because we spoke about them one night, and it was kind of fascinating. So first of all, how are you? What have you been up to? How's life been? Any more dogs decided to try and freaking take a chunk out of you or anything like that?
No. I had an incident the other day. I don't know if you remember this video that went viral maybe about 10 years ago of a dog called Fenton that
Yes.
was in I had a Fenton moment. I was walking two dogs, and this new one I've got decides to run into someone's garden and comes belting out chasing a deer. And it was a Fenton moment. I was screaming at this dog, and it was just heading towards the main road, and a main A road as well. And I'm thinking, if the deer goes across that and gets hit by a car, and then, it was mad. So it was one of them. And it just afterwards, the dog did come back eventually, but it was a Fenton moment. It just goes to show that these things are still wild animals, and they will still get the call of the wild.
That's it exactly. And it can kind of come out of nowhere with dogs. Do you know what I mean? And 1 second, I'm pushing the wrong button here. Yeah, I'm just bringing up exactly what you're talking about, because we've all had dogs, right?
This was it.
This was it. Listen to this.
Yeah, I had a Fenton moment.
Look at the dog.
That was me on Tuesday morning.
Well, luckily, the road was fairly aware of what was happening. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like the M60 or anything like that.
But you know, these things can I can always remember there was when I worked for the River Police, I was based right in the heart of the East End, in a place called Wapping, and just up around the corner from the police station was a roofer's yard, and they've been there for years, real East End company, and their yard was next to an old people's home, and I was doing my rope climbing training. I was part of an abseiling team, and the abseiling training wall was right on the River Thames. And as we were sort of abseiling down, we saw this plume of smoke go up, and then an explosion, and then more and more. And anyway, so we decided to ditch the climbing, just go and find out what's going. So we all sprinted round the corner. And what happened, some young lad had a skip, and it was all full of batten and stuff like that from the roofing. And he decided to save the company a bit of money. It was a Friday afternoon, that he'd have a small bonfire in the skip, and he'd burn this bits of batten, which I suppose you can see the protocol behind it. Anyway, he lit this batten, and of course it's got out of hand, and it's got so hot that next to it was a storage full of Calagas canisters. And one went up, the next went up, and in the end these things all exploded. They were actually spinning through the air, these great big huge canisters. They set fire to the old people's home, that burnt down.
Oh my God.
It caused something like £10 million worth of damage, and the whole of the East End was on fire, and this poor lad was just standing there, and he was just petrified. And
oh God. It just shows you, man, when the eye comes off the ball for just a minute sometimes.
It's these life-changing moments that you just cannot predict. So but no, things have been busy. I've been doing interviews all over the place. It's been absolutely non-stop with interviews, because I had a conversation with my old colleague Maggie Oliver the other day. She contacted me, and we were just both discussing, because we both spoke out at the same time on exactly the same thing, really. Although the ethnicity was slightly different, but it was the same. And she was bullied the same way as me. Mm-hmm. And I just said to her, Maggie, what we said 10 years ago, it's all come true, isn't it? She went, yeah, it has. You know, despite how they've tried to suppress us, shut us up, whatever they've tried to do, it's all come true. The whole thing has come true. So it's and I got infiltrated. Here's a story for you, and I'm going to say this because it needs to be said. I got infiltrated by someone who, ex-police officer, says, I want to help and really want to get involved with what you're doing. Gives me all his qualifications. He's the best thing since sliced bread, this guy. I stood up against corruption like you. You know, really want you on board. Me and a group are taking on the government for corruption, everything else. Certain things didn't really speak true, but there was no doubt he was a police officer, no doubt at all. But he sort of promoted and then demoted himself in the conversation. So one minute he was a superintendent, next minute he was an inspector, then a sergeant. But he mentioned a couple of places he worked, and I knew a couple of guys that worked in these places.
Okay.
So, and he wanted to get me to help with what he's doing, help me with what I was doing, but also help some of the stuff that a lot of good people are trying to do to try and get, I'm not going to name any names, are trying to get this inquiry, this independent inquiry underway. Let me leave it at that. He's sort of trying to sort of offer his services there as this bastion of absolute decency and anti-corruption. Anyway, as soon as the conversation, something didn't seem right. So I contacted a friend of mine and I said, look, can I run a name past you? The moment I said it, my mate said, see you next Tuesday. Get rid of him. Have nothing to do with him whatsoever. Google his name now. And I said, seriously, he said, John, just Google his name. Googled it. He's a registered sex offender. The bloke was a paedophile. He was caught downloading child pornography. There was an absolute dog, and that I got incensed with anger, and I really mean it. I was fuming, and I had to contact a couple of people that came to help and say, well, have you any idea who this guy is? And they had no idea. Just because he was a copper, they thought he was great. I said, he is actually went to prison for child P. He's a paedophile. So, you know, it just goes to show you never can tell. You must always keep your eye on the ball, you know. But trust that copper's nose as well at the same time, you know. Yeah. Sometimes if it looks like a dog and it barks like a dog, there's a good chance, you know. So, but, you know, that's that. It's a lot of interest on Mr. Brand, you know, huge amount of interest on him.
Well, what I mean, obviously, we sort of deep dived and had a little take on Russell Brand, and time's ticking on. I do believe he's still in America right now, and you know, I got ChatGPT to trawl the internet and grab every single public accusation that's been thrown against him over the years and put together a timeline of events, shall we say? Because for me, John, I got a bit shocked when I realized that the police were not investigating Brand until that documentary came out. Okay. Which seems, is that not backwards?
It may be, but sometimes there's a catalyst. That's not to say that he hasn't been reported.
Oh no, there's definitely reports.
You know, he may well have been reported many, many times in the past. The thing is with people like him, that the allegations on him will go to what they call the celebrity squad. There's a special unit that will deal with celebrities such as him.
Yeah.
And then whether that goes into this sort of big pot that just melts away and nothing comes of it, I don't know. I've never been on one of them units, but you know, my old boss did run it, and he used to say, you know, whether it's a cover up, I don't know. On these things, maybe not. Yeah. But people like him, you know, it's the influence they have. That's what the government's frightened of. But I bet you, like Savile, there's a huge history of this guy actually coming to notice and allegations being made. And I think there's been some made abroad as well, isn't there?
There's some here, some abroad, some during filming, some during broadcast.
I think there was some in Italy and.
It's just it doesn't paint a good picture. So this is what ChatGPT.
I mean, I was told by a copper that there was a lot of allegations made in Brazil against Freddie Mercury.
Okay.
But for young boys, you know, said that, the Brazilian police were looking into him. So. All is nice. It's all, but what gets me, it's always this genre of people. It's always the celebrities, the singers, everything else. It's always them.
John, I saved this image because I just thought this one would rub you up the wrong way. So I thought
No.
just throw this one up for you, mate.
Do you know? Do you know who does he think he is? I mean, it's the same as Andrew Tate does the same. Andrew Tate. They've all got to have this grandstanding like Jesus, haven't they? I mean, I think David Icke does one where he sort of comes in with his arms out. And look at this guy. Who does he think he? I mean, his t-shirt. What's he got on his t-shirt? It looks like a 5-pointed star or something.
Oh, it's too good. Well, I've got another one for you. Wait. I've got another one for you. And this is the last one. This one.
But that's what they call a Sacred Heart. That one. It's not really a Christian picture. That's a.
There we go. But yeah.
I mean, it's just a mockery. He'll burn in hell, this guy, for what he's doing.
Okay, well, look, here's what ChatGPT has to say, right? Timeline of allegations. I just want to remind everybody at this stage, it is a multitude of allegations plus a multitude of charges. I'm going to get the Russell Brand is innocent until proven guilty banner up. So it says 2006 allegations of a 16-year-old schoolgirl claims Brand SA'd her during a 3-month relationship.
Right, can we break this down? I like this. So a 16-year-old. I want people to really take that on board. A 16-year-old. Now, again, it'll come down to consent. But why is it always the victim that has to say no? Do you know what I mean? She's 16. Okay, that's legal. What is a guy of that age doing with a 16-year-old girl? Let's say, and if what she's saying is true, it's down to him to say no, not her, him. I mean, that in itself, that's actually really angered me. The fact that's come up, and that's all that's done is fueled my suspicion anyway.
Here, it's interesting because we've got this report on ChatGPT, but in the documentary, one of the victims that spoke out, John, was this 16-year-old girl, and she has been trying to campaign for, or trying to press for laws, because obviously, yes, 16 is legal age, right? And it's not weird when it's 16 and a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old or whatever. There's that kind of
right. Well, the law,
comfort, right?
The law used to say, right, there was an offence called USI, unlawful sexual intercourse, and it would allow a man under the age of 24 to have sex with a girl over the age of 14, providing there was no bizarre circumstances, in amongst it, and he'd never been accused of it before. It allowed for that. I thought she was 16. It allowed for the law. What I'm saying with USI, the law was reasonable. And we can sort of look at that and say, yeah, actually, I can get that. I'm not saying it's right or anything like that, but I can get it. Now, I watched one of these PDF hunters, went out there, and they targeted an 18-year-old boy for trying to groom a 14-year-old girl. And they destroyed this young lad. And it was wrong what they were doing, right? It was wrong. He was 18, she was 14. The old USI would have allowed for it, right? He would have got a warning. Social services would have got brought in, and it would have all been dealt with as an education. Don't do it. She's too young, right?
Would that
but him, this guy is in his 50s, and back then in 2006, maybe his late 40s. It's out of order. And anyone out there, and I want to call out here to female victim and survivors, right, of underage sex. What are your opinions on this when you've heard this with a 16-year-old girl? And I'd also want to call out to decent, reasonable, grown men with 15 and 16-year-old girls who still think that this guy maybe is innocent and they believe in what he's saying, right? What are your opinions on this? Because I've not got girls, but I've got boys, right? I am very angry now hearing that, really angry at hearing that. And I think the law's been very reasonable up till this date. Bear in mind it was a 16-year-old. But please go ahead. I've just had to.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Well, it's interesting that you say that because the there's been a lot of people wanting to change the laws in the UK so that if you're a 16-year-old and I don't know, let's say for argument's sake, up to the age of like 20, 23, 24, something like that, anything over an age where it could be considered a massive grooming gap, where there's a power dynamic, they want to see a law changed. I mean, how would you even go around?
But we had that. Like I said, the USI allowed for that. There's loads of coats in there, bro. Yeah, all right, no worries.
The USI, is the USI not something that could be easily weaponized, though, by a grooming gang, for example, by using 17, 18-year-olds to be the communication between a 14
but that's exactly what they do. They call it the Romeo effect. That's
okay.
what they do. And they've always done that. You can't get around that. Anyone who's deceptive will use, the veil of innocence. Like I said earlier on, look at this ex-policeman showing himself off as some sort of decent human being. Well, actually, he's a dangerous individual, and the public need to be warned about this guy, but that's how a confidence trick, i.e., a con man, works. They trick your confidence. They bring you into this sense of security, and then they diddle you and do you over. So we won't be able to get away from that. But this is a grown man with all the women who self-proclaimed sex. I mean, I don't know how many.
Not just
he's obviously no good at it if he has to have so many of them, because he's not perfected it and not got one to fine tune his skill on. He's it always baffles me when you get these people like Mick Jagger, like him, that self-proclaimed, these Lotharios, Romeos, and that go into their sexual partners in the thousands. Well, they're obviously no good at it. There's something very, very wrong if that has to occur. I don't know. I mean, I like someone else's opinion on that. It seems odd.
You said, he's a grown man. He's not just that. He's a grown man who's a comedian, who's a television star, who's on the radio. There's a lot of dynamics here that lead to a power dynamic and certainly a persuasive individual.
Well, he's in a position of authority, really. And so if he was a care worker, a school teacher, a police officer, it'd be done now. It'd be in a world of trouble. I mean, the parameters around us police officers, what we could and couldn't stick it in, were immense. I mean, there was always the ones that were always played victim were victims of crime. There would be guys that would deal with like the victims of crime, and then that was their way in to sort of have it off with them and stuff like that. So that went on. If you were caught, you was in a world of trouble. And on Vice, because we dealt with prostitutes, whether on the street or in the brothel, a few of them did cross that Rubicon. And but we were warned. Any inclination that you're having anything sexual to do with a prostitute or whatever, you're out. You're gone. There's no appeal. You're gone, and you have to sign a contract to that you ain't going to appeal. You're not going to fight it. You're just going to accept. You're gone, and that's how it was.
Yeah. Well, listen. There's been two occasions. One during an interview, and then another in the papers. And I just wanted to get your two takes on the mindset of Russell Brand here. So the first one was when Russell Brand gave one of his partners an STD, and she informed him of it, and then he went to his radio station, and live on the radio show he was laughing about it and making jokes with it with his co-host. Wait, there's one more. And then the other one was a production manager who's seen Russell Brand in, let's just say, for example, the green room or the after party or whatever, and he was sat there, and other members of the production team came up and were like, right, Russell, let's see the photos. And he's sitting there with about 12 members of the team flicking through all of the inappropriate images that he'd been sent or taken of other women, right? And then laughing about it and joking about it. As an ex-police officer, when you see cases like this where there's this open degradation or this lack of respect or care, does that give you any more insight into him as a potential alleged predator?
He needs his head punching. That's what he needs.
Right.
He needs a dad to go around and punch his head in. I mean, imagine laughing on, and that was your daughter.
Yep.
Your naive idiot daughter who's idolized this more. And I think anyone who goes near this guy is going to catch something, aren't they? You're going to catch something. It's just, yeah. I mean, if you lay with dogs, you're going to get fleas, aren't you? It's as simple as that. And now, and now I'd like to know what his wife thinks about this. And at some point, his children are going to be grown up and they're going to watch this. What are they going to think? You know, the guy's got no shame at all, none whatsoever. There's no repentance on this man, no repentance whatsoever. I mean, if he's really a man of God and gone to Jesus Christ, our Saviour, then what he should be doing, these poor victims, and there should be some compensation. He should be getting in touch with them and saying, look, for what it's worth, I know money ain't going to do it, but have something. I'm sorry, I'm deeply sorry. I don't know whether he's done that or not, but I doubt it. They're probably trying it now because, you know, the wheels come off the cart. And he's in a world of trouble, so there may well be some sort of financial remuneration being bandied about. But do you know what? I think it's too late. I'm glad that this guy's caught out. I'm glad. I never liked him. You're going to get a very biased opinion on me. I never liked this guy. He's sinister. He's creepy. Some guys, I get why women fancy them. I get it. I understand it. Right? But this guy, he's creepy. What do women... I don't know what it is, whether it's a fame thing or whatever it might be. The fact that he makes laugh. He is an intelligent guy. But you know what? So what? Hitler was a clever guy. You know? What difference is that?
Listen, I'm not being crazy, but I would imagine that Hitler had fangirls too. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, let's be honest. It's you look at some of the worst people who are serial unalivers, you know, who've done crazy things, but have recently been married in prison or have met the love of their life through written correspondence. It's an interesting world.
Well, what'll be interesting is seeing how many people still think, you know, believe his innocence. What's the demographic? Are they women? Are they women in their 40s? Are they women in their young teens? What you know? I reckon it probably is a certain demographic. I'll probably say it's sort of more middle-aged women that are siding with this guy. I can't see how any man could side with him.
I think what you have a whole generation now, though, John, that would never have known Russell Brand the comedy, never known Russell Brand on the telly, and only know Russell Brand as the free-thinking, whistleblowing style, you know, messiah, if you will. So do you think that we're going to see a younger demographic who are backing Russell Brand because they haven't lived through that era of him?
Well, you know, the 20-somethings do know him. You know, my boys and his friends do know who this guy is because he's so out there. But again, the production companies, you know, why is there no sanctions? Look, when post Wayne Couzens thing in the police, they went out after coppers that had WhatsApp groups and they had these WhatsApp chats and they were sending these so-called inappropriate messages, which everyone's done and all that, but they were getting sacked for it and everything else. Why don't they go after this side? If a load of coppers were passing around pictures of rape victims and laughing at it, they'd all be sacked. So why can't they do it to the BBC Channel 4 production companies? Why can't they sack Jonathan Ross as well, you know, for what went on with this guy and the Andrew Sachs granddaughter sort of scenario? You know, why can't they start having sanctions? But they don't. There are no sanctions. It seems to be they're rewarding bad behaviour. And this guy, all they seem to do is encourage him, push him forward. And you know, I wouldn't say they've created a monster because the guy is a monster. But one of the interesting things, I want to do a bit of research on him. I'm currently doing a lot of research on a pathologist, coroner called Heath, and also Michael Mansfield, and their connection with Michael Barrymore and the murder really of Stuart Lubbock. And I became quite good friends with Terry Lubbock, Stuart Lubbock's dad. And the corruption within Essex Police, this coroner, Dr. Heath, who cropped up with all sorts of bizarre deaths and cover-ups, and also this Michael Mansfield, this barrister. I can't stand the guy. He represented Lady Diana, but also represented Michael Barrymore. You know, they make out they're doing good, but they only do these things because they get huge amounts of money, you know. But I'd like to do some research on him, and I'm gonna get his book. I'm going to read up on his book. But one of the things I heard about this man was that his dad took him to Thailand when he was just a mere youth. and got him to have sex with prostitutes. What dad does that? What dad does that? I mean, this guy seems to come from a very, very sick background. And why is his mum allowing that to go on? So there's deep-rooted issues with this guy here. And I think if you was to profile him, he may well, dovetail into a profile of a dangerous ex-offender. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's just something I'm putting out there. But I, for one, I just don't like the guy. I think he's sinister.
Yeah. Okay, well, listen, John, let's keep going through this. I'll see how many more I can get through. So we had 2006, a 16-year-old. Then 2007, Jordan Martin Brand's ex-girlfriend's alleges SA and physical and emotional A during her 6-month relationship.
Who's this? Jordan, is that a man?
Jordan Martin, no, it's a girlfriend, ex-girlfriend.
Oh, his ex-girlfriend. All right. So her name's Jordan Martin. How old was she?
I do not know. 1 second. I do not know.
So she's accusing of physical.
Yeah, physical, emotional, and sexual as well.
Right. So he's committing 3 types of abuse. Physical, So this guy potentially could be a woman beater as well.
I mean, we're only at 2007, mate. We've still got another 18 years to go. So this is one of the cases that was in the US, and he became enraged after she spoke to an ex-partner. 2012, a woman alleges that Brand R'd her in an LA, Los Angeles home on July 1st, 2012. She was treated at an R crisis center on the same date. Now, this was one of the ladies from the documentary as well, John. And is there a possibility, right? Oh, Paula, how you doing, Paula? Great to see you. Paula, next week, I've got a show idea for us. But Wednesday's my birthday, and Monday and Tuesday's when I'm celebrating it, because Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is just going to be chaos. So I'm just letting you know, if you don't hear from me, I have something to throw at you. So this lady was treated at an R-word clinic in America where she gave over her underwear and everything that they would take to keep sealed. Is it possible, John, that 12 years later, okay, after this documentary's come out, that could be evidence in this case? Or is it just too long now?
No, not at all. Not at all. There's no time limit on this. When we saw the government inquiry into PDF file, the historic abuse, they were going back 50 years. So I've got with me now the manual. This is the detective's manual, right?
Nice. It looks really similar to those, those like PC for idiots books. Right?
Yeah, well, it needs to be. It needs to be for coppers. So this is the Bible for a young budding detective. Let's try and find it. But no, 2012.
Oh, John, we've lost your sound.
Cut someone off there.
Yeah, there we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear me. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, someone rang me.
That's right.
Anyway, I'll have to explain to that person in a minute why I cut them off. But right, let's find it. Here goes sexual offences. Dun dun dun. 97. Right. So we're looking at assault. Right. So let's go. I want to read out. So people get a gauge. This isn't just us plucking things out.
I'm with you.
Out the air, right? So, here we go. Now, there's a thing called anonymity, right?
Okay.
So a victim is entitled to lifelong anonymity, and that's up to them. They can break the anonymity, but they have to sign it away. So they instantly get the anonymity. So it looks like these girls have got anonymity because they've not been named.
No, that's right. And that goes for the documentary and the court case, because they've all been nameless. But that seems to me then the justification on keeping these ladies' names out of the paper, because they have anonymity as an alleged victim. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So they're allowed that. So it's assault. The law changed in 2004. This book is old. This book is pre-2004. But the law is not what they call retrospective. So if you committed an offence before 2004, you go back to the old legislation, which is the Sexual Offences Act of 1956. So indecent assault, right, is one. So that is triable either way. So that means you can be tried in a magistrates or in a Crown Court. You get 10 years maximum for that, imprisonment. And it's what's called a serious arrestable offence. And it states, right, it is an offence for a person, and that includes Russell Brand, to make an indecent assault on a woman. A girl under the age of 16 cannot in law give any consent which would prevent an act of assault for the purpose of this section. Right, so and the other section of it is to do with a man, so it's split between a man and a woman. So this girl that's 16 years old, had she been 15, there would be no issue of consent. It's an absolute, right?
Yeah.
So he would have been in a world of trouble. Now the RAPE offence, that's section 1. So anything that's section 1 of statute legislation is always serious. So section 1 of common law is murder, but this is the Sexual Offences Act of 1956, and it is an offence for a man to rape a woman or another man. A man commits rape if
you need to say R, John. We need to say R.
Right.
Sorry.
If he has sexual intercourse with a person, whether vaginal or anal, who at the time of intercourse does not consent to it. Okay? And at the time he knows that the person does not consent to the intercourse or is reckless as to whether the person consents to it. So, all of a sudden we're bringing in, he's bringing up this inference of recklessness. I was promiscuous. I was a drug addict. I was drinking a lot. Well, that's recklessness, and so it's all coming down to consent. But again, why is it always a victim that has to deal with the consent?
Yeah.
If there weren't, it should be him. He's a grown man. It's not as if he is sex starved or anything like that. He's a grown man. And
just to trigger you a little bit further on this, right? When it comes to the 16-year-old, her allegations are it's oral R. And the way she describes this, John, is she's lying sitting up in bed, and he comes in and just jumps up on the bed naked and forces it upon her, if you will. And she's crying and she can't breathe, and she ends up having to physically punch him in the goolies to get him off. And Russell Brand goes on to do comedy sketches about how, I kind of like it when, the man bits go down the throat a little bit and it makes your eyes water, but I would never ask for it. You can never ask for it. And his whole pretense of this comedy.
But isn't that so typical? Isn't
that rubbing it in their faces? Is this a monster?
Well, literally, isn't it? Literally, and figuratively, and literally. But it doesn't that just go to show, the twistedness of him, that he actually is telling everyone what he's done. I mean, you've got to look at, if we was to break this down on an interview, he's actually telling you what he's done.
Well, it gives me when we watch everything back now that Savile had said and recorded, like some of the stuff he said was mental, right?
Yeah.
Like,
but at any point did Savile ever admit to it? No, but he told us. See, there's a big difference to admitting to it to a legal standard and telling us. I think if we break this down, Russell Brand's been telling us everything for a very, very, very long time. He's been telling us, exactly what's going on here. But again, where's the consent there? That if this girl is a liar, right? How does she benefit from lying? How does she benefit from going to a national news agency and then to the police with that lie? There is no benefit for her at all, right? Even if she gets money, well, so what? What's she going to get? Look, if he gets not guilty, the criminal injuries can still pay out, but they're not going to pay much out for that anyway. and all the hassle she's going to get and what she's going to have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to have to now go through a very rigorous court procedure, which can be very harrowing and life-changing for some people. You know, I spent as a detective a good percentage of my time in Crown Courts, and I've been cross-examined by what they so-called the best of them. You know, I wouldn't say the best of them is just because they're dogmatic. You know, but some of them are. They're very intelligent, very plummy, and very dogmatic. And you've got to really know your story and hold your own. And if you don't, you're gonna trip up, and you're gonna trip up in a very public forum under extreme pressure, and it's horrific and it's very uncomfortable. And you know that's when you're telling the truth, or like as an officer, you're fighting for the truth, and you're fighting for victims of these shocking crimes. But imagine if you are the victim and you then have to go through that just to justify being a victim. And then you've got people like him hiding behind their celebrity status and accusing these people of carpet bagging. Do you know, I've said this so many times in my interview, out of all the children I interviewed, and there were many, it was only one that ever lied. One. And the little girl lied. It was acrimonious because dad had got a new girlfriend and mum was jealous and she got the kids to make things up, right? And the kid fell at the first hurdle. It was quite clear under the challenging phase of the interview, because bear in mind, these victims are going to be interviewed by police, what they called SOIT officers. It's an acronym, SOIT, Sexual Offences Interview Techniques. It's a very intense, very intrusive course that the police run. It's a very tough course. I used to teach parts of this, interview skills on the SOIT course. And there's a special one for children, which is even more intense. And people have to be psychometrically tested before they even go on the course to make sure they're not a paedophile, to make sure they're not a victim of this or whatever it is, right? So there's a lot of hurdles to come through. So these officers are very skillful and trained, and they would have listened to a lot of crap as well as a lot of truth, and a lot of different personality types and all that. And at the end of the narrative in which a victim is allowed to free flow and say what's happened, right, there is the challenge phase where an officer would challenge any inconsistencies, and that's to clear things up before the CPS make their decision. Is this person robust enough to win this case for the prosecution, for the Crown, right? If not, we cannot proceed. So they have, on 6 charges with 4 individuals, unrelated individuals, have said, we've got enough. And there may be many more that they said, this one can't go through.
Yeah.
This one may be a massive slapper who's got a history of this, so we can't, doesn't make her a liar. I'm not saying that. And I don't need to use terms like slapper, but you get where I'm coming from, because this is what the inference will be. They are going to drag this victim, especially this 16-year-old girl. Her previous sexual history is going to be brought into question. And is she a liar? They may even go and get her school records to see if she's made any false allegations up. Such will be the veracity and the need to get this article off. And if they got someone with no soul, like Michael Mansfield or equivalent, KC, QC, blah, 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 and that's what they do. If they can't attack the integrity of the evidence, they attack the integrity of the vessel giving the evidence, the person. And that's how Michael Mansfield made his immense fortune. Well, it won't save him, ultimately. And he ended up being arrested for beating up his wife anyway. So he's not a wholesome man. So I don't care for these people. But what I'm saying is there's many hurdles to go through. And when you said about putting this in her mouth, that is now classed as the R word, whereas prior to 2004, no, it wouldn't be, because as I read on the 1956 Act, it has to be vaginal or anal. It wasn't in the mouth. Now you know that because it's R, oral R, that it's after 2004. Now, I started podcasting in 2000. My first interview was 2015. And that was only yesterday, really. in my opinion. I thought, wow, I was a bit slimmer and I had less grey hair, but it wasn't that long ago, and some of my interviews are still out there from that time. So it's not that long ago at all.
Yeah.
And again, a 16-year-old girl. Oh, come on, oh
Well,
man.
this is the thing, John. Right? We've got the 16-year-old and her account of this. Then we've got the charges, which are one count of R, which allegedly occurred in Bournemouth in 1999. One count of indecent assault allegedly occurred in Westminster 2001. One count of oral R allegedly occurred in Westminster 2004. And two counts of SA allegedly occurred in Westminster between 2004 and 2005. Now, we'd only got up to 2007. Now, we go forward here to 2012. Allegations of a woman alleges that Bland R'd her at the Los Angeles home. I think we read that one. 2013. Allegations, a woman claims that Brand SA'd her while she worked with him in LA and threatened to take legal action if she told anyone about the allegations. 2020 development. The woman who claimed she was SA'd by Brand during a 3-month relationship was 16, contacted his literary agent at the time, who was also the co-founder of a talent agency, Tavistock Wood, and Tavistock Wood has since terminated all professional ties with Brand. Interesting.
Yeah, and why would they do that if he was a wholesome, decent person? Why would they do that? And again, so this girl had a 3-month, 16. She had a 3-month relationship with him. Well, I mean, what are her parents thinking? Oh, come on, But that may be tricky because he was in a relationship. So people can even get done for R-ing their wife, but that there is this open agreement that when you've got a girlfriend and boyfriend, and then you do start making the relationship physical, that this is commonplace, and at what point is consent withdrawn. So that may be difficult for that poor 16-year-old girl to prove. That's going to be a bit of I'd love to know the full ins and outs of this. But you've got allegations coming out now in recent times in America. Well, I don't know what's the sentencing guidelines in America. In the state, was this in California? Was it?
Some of it was LA. Some of it was all over England, allegedly. And 2023, a joint investigation by the Times and the Sunday Times and Channel 4 Dispatches published a detailed allegations made against Brand. The allegations included SA, emotional abuse during a 7-year period at the height of his fame, and then in 2025, that's when the charges were brought.
But we're seeing a bit of profiling coming out now because he's threatening her now. So he's alleged to have done this abuse and then threatening legal action. Well, who's his barrister? Who's his solicitors, his attorneys, and his lawyer? And how confident is he that they can go and threaten this girl? And if that's the case, maybe he's done this before. Maybe he's threatened people before with legal action. No one will believe you. Well, doesn't that just sound like how a PDF file threatens the child victims? No one will believe you.
Threatening and coercive and threatening.
Coercive, of course. The characteristics are absolutely no different. Like I said in our last interview, this guy's in a world of trouble, mate. He's in a world of trouble. It doesn't need us to add to it because and now what's going to happen? So he's due at Westminster Magistrates on the 2nd of May. I'm going to turn up. I'm going to be there for this. I want to see this guy coming out of that court. And I want to be there. I want to be there for this fella. I can't stand him. I seriously cannot stand this guy. And I reckon that there'll be quite a few people at the court who can't stand him either. But then what happens? Is he going to get extradited?
Apparently, he's willingly coming back. He did give a date. I can't remember which one it was. But listen, the summary is that Brand has been accused of at least 5 women in various forms of SA misconduct, including R-word, SA emotional abuse, and this. I mean, this is really we know that it's from 1999 onwards that these accusations have come for, and I mean that's a quarter.
From 1999 at the moment is stopping at 2012. You know, so that's a 13-year reign of terror. But there'll be more. His legal team are in a position now. Where do they go from here? Because this could explode.
Yeah.
This really could explode. If you look at there's a documentary on Netflix about Eric Hall, Rolf Harris, Jimmy Seville, Gary Glitter, blah blah blah, Alvin Stardust, all these, and on their first appearance, usually at Marylebone Magistrates, the Westminster Magistrates, when they're coming out, they're like, I refute. They all say that I refute these allegations. They all say the same shite. I refute, and we're going to fight this. And they all say the same. Oh, went to prison. Not only did they go to prison, they put in an appeal. One of them put in an appeal. I think it was Eric Hall, Eddie Hall, or whatever it was, and he got his sentence increased because he's such a massive pedo. And then Rolf Harris turns up with his wife by his side and his daughter. He goes away, and then he gets out, and then he goes away again. These are, we can't. Why do people accept the words of a liar? If you accept the words of a liar, you're going to go through life very, very disappointed. And it reminds me of that Only Fools and Horses sketch where Del Boy goes to Rodney. You've got a face like you've been given a promise by a liar. And it's like this. Oh, well, he said he didn't do it. He said, I had to contact a well-known celebrity last week and warn them because they had involvement with this ex-copper. I had to warn them. I said, listen, this guy's been helping you, but you need to know something about this fella. He is a convicted PDF file. Right? No, he wouldn't accept it. There's no proof of that, John. Well, no proof of that. I went, I'm telling you, because I know this guy, right? I know the guy, very well known. And no. Where's the proof of that? And I went, well, while we're on the phone, let me Google it. And sure enough, I find it. Right, I find it. And I ping it through to him. And in this fella's defense, he's turned around and said that he was looking at child P images because it was research for his work. Well, that's exactly what Pete Townsend said before he got cautioned.
It's just wild. It's just wild, man. Like,
but this guy accepted it, and I went, "What do you mean you accept that he was telling the truth?" I said, "They found these images on his home computer, and he wasn't even in a child protection unit. He was a custody sergeant." I said, I can't help you, mate. I've warned you. There's nothing more I can do. There is this cognitive dissonance that comes into these people, and they have a refusal to accept it as soon as it is someone that they know or someone in the public eye. And it really is. Someone's put he has not denied any allegations. This is really interesting. So he's not openly denied this. But he has on his social media, I think, he's there. Like I said to you the other week, if I was his lawyer now, I'd be saying to him, you need to shut your cake hole. You need to really put a stopper in it now. This has to stop. You cannot continue talking like this. He has to stop it. That's what my legal advice to be him. Shut your mouth. And what do lawyers say to look? What do your insurance company, the legal teams, your insurance company say when you have a crash? Don't admit liability. Well, you've crashed into someone. You've clearly done it. Don't admit liability. They're telling you to lie because that is the protocol. Lie. Let the other side prove it. We must lie. Blame the other side when you've crashed into them. And it's the same as the police when they've got evidence against someone. Their brief says no comment, no comment, no comment, no comment.
Well, John, I think we have touched on Russell this evening, right? For long enough. I've got someone I need to introduce to you, and this is going to be for anyone who's wondering, right? I've been working. In fact, you know what? Let's not go into that. But everything about this entire this individual that you're about to see on screen just now, and any further members of his family that are brought to justice, we'll be talking about here. Now, this man here, his name's Kyle, all right? And he was found guilty of carrying out brutal SA attacks on 2 women in Edinburgh.
Right.
His sentencing is on May 7th, and I just want to read this case out to you, okay? A twisted criminal that was found guilty of carrying out brutal SA attacks on 2 women in court has been in Edinburgh. A court has found Kyle Kernican, who was brought before Edinburgh High Court, where a jury found him guilty of 2 Rs. The 28-year-old carried out the attacks in 2 separate locations in the capital. In one instance in February 2015, and in one in October 31st, 2016. Now, I just want to remind you of his age. He's 28 now.
Right.
Okay. He assaulted a victim with a crowbar or a similar implement to her injury at a property at Marine Divine in Silverknowes Beach in Edinburgh. Oh, my word. Silverknowes Beach. On a separate occasion, Kyle Kerrigan assaulted a second woman in a property in Granton View in Edinburgh. During the attack, he removed the woman's lower clothing and exposed her top half, and then went on to R-word her. He did so also while he was intoxicated, asleep. Hang on a second. On a separate occasion, Kyle Kerrigan assaulted a second victim in a property in Granton View. During the attack, and then we're down to here. He did so while she was intoxicated, asleep, and incapacitated, or giving or withholding consent. So obviously she was under the influence or purposely being put into sleep. Kernican awaits final hearing on the 7th of May, where a judge will decide the length and severity of his sentence. Now, he recorded these women being abused with these crowbars, okay? And I wanted to get your take, because there could be a massive story here, John, that will sadly, this could be at the center, John, and I say this with real intent, okay? You could be looking at one of the faces of the Rochdale of Edinburgh. Okay?
Well, let's look at what he's done, right? He clearly has a massive issue with women. To brutalize them and to R them like that. That there was without a doubt an issue here with his mother. If I was interviewing this guy, I'd like to know his family dynamics. He's punishing women, brutally punishing women from a very, very early age. I mean, this is obviously his Facebook profile that he's put in there, trying to show himself off as quite an innocent, good-looking lad or whatnot. A calculated man, but without a doubt with a deep-rooted issue and a need to seriously hurt and punish women. And it would have been leaching out of his conversations and his actions, probably.
Now, keep in mind, this is where these charges stem from, and this is from when he was 18 and 19 years old, and you're going to learn over the coming months more about the true extent of further allegations of being entwined with another case where an individual was trafficked from the age of 5 by her mother. And wouldn't you just know it? This man's father. And
yeah. See, funny enough, I was talking to a therapist and a profiler and a counsellor on these crimes. She's done it for, I think she's been doing it for near on 40 years. Very well known in what she does, and me and her have been working together for a long time, and we've been discussing cases that are sort of cropping up, mainly with the grooming gangs and all that. And she said, when are we really going to start talking about who's actually involved in it? Put the blame where the blame really truly lies. And the blame truly lies at home with absent fathers and complicit mothers. This is where it lies. This is where when we got to put the blame where it lies. This guy blames his mother because something's happened to him and his mother never protected him. It wasn't social services. They may well have let him down and put him in care while he got sodomized or whatever, and it may have been the police who didn't do their job. But that's secondary and tertiary blame. The primary blame in 80% of these cases are within the home, whether it's Pakistani Kashmiri cab drivers or it's not. 80% of it is in the home. Let's get this right. And let's put the blame where the blame truly lies. And it's only then can we unpick this, peel this back, and bring about healing and move forward and try and somehow prevent monsters like it ever doing it again.
John, you're kind of 90% right, except there's a good chance that you're looking at somebody from birth was made to witness similar crimes, right? These individuals.
Who made him witness them?
We can't talk about it right now, sadly, because there's an ongoing court case. But I just want to take you back. I want to give you a little connection here, John. So, have you ever heard of a woman called Caroline Dunsmore?
I may have done, but go on.
So in 2007, Caroline Dunsmore was sentenced for one of the largest PDF rings in Edinburgh. And she was sentenced for her daughter, who was 5 at the beginning of this, taking her on a 10-year journey of abuse where, you know, if mummy's friends came around and they weren't abusing her, she was wondering what was going on. When she went to her friend's house and, you know, their parents' friends came over and there was no abuse, she couldn't understand why it wasn't happening. It was so normal to Dana. And Dana wrote a book and took down this entire PDF ring, and her mother betrayed her on the stand by basically saying that no other men were involved and protected some of the men involved that then are now at the center of this new case. Now, here is a very grainy picture, but these were the individuals who back in 2007 were at the center of all of this, all got jail sentences, serious jail sentences. But the man who escaped charge, okay, how messed up is this? So the man who abused her, who escaped charge because the mother protected her, John, went on to abuse her from the age of 16 right up until her mid-40s. I mean, systematically. Okay? And all of that's allegedly, but isn't it interesting, John, that it's his father?
Well, it is. And also what is more interesting, that the head of the Scottish judiciary at the time was a man called Nicholas Fairbairn. And Nicholas Fairbairn was Lord Nicholas Fairbairn, and he was one of the main PDF file abusers in the children's homes in Scotland, naming Forneath Kids Home in Perthshire, where out of 20 young girls who were hard, 16 of them picked him out, Nicholas Fairbairn. He was in charge of the Procurator Fiscal. He was the Advocate Depute, and Nicholas Fairbairn was having a long-standing sexual, emotional, and personal relationship with Esther Ranson, who was in charge of Childline. So, right. You know, and any case of this magnitude would have to go through the, you know, the claw of Nicholas Fairbairn, where he decided whether or not it worthy prosecution. So, you know, the thing is rotten from the top to the bottom. When you get cases like this, and we've seen it now with the satanic group in Scotland, in Glasgow, you know, that the council house low-hanging fruit tower block scumbags there, and then you see it
listen,
right up.
John, isn't it interesting that all mention of satanic ritual abuse has been wiped from that case?
Of course it is.
Do you not remember how it started off? 8 witches arrested. Have you read the testimonies from those kids?
Yeah, of course it is. And when you've got you know, periodicals and magazines and publications like Private Eye, with people like Ian Hislop, who was named on the range list, that attack anyone who speaks out about ritual abuse, you know, and they denigrate them and rubbish it. We've got journalists like Rosie Waterhouse do the same, attack anyone that call people like me as perpetrators of satanic panic. And they just won't have it. They just won't have it out there. It won't get anywhere, but it speaks volumes. But do you know what? Who do these people think they are, really? I mean, if you look at these fellas on here, you know, they'll be dead soon, or they'll die in prison or whatever. And even Nicholas Fairbairn, he never did a day in prison, yet he was named as one of the 3 politicians caught on the Elm Guest House list. They're dead now. They've gone to hell. They've gone to hell, a lot of them. But what is very interesting is that young man Kyle that you showed, right? It's obvious that he's been exposed to horrors, and he's gone on to do horrors. Yet the
100%.
young lady who broke this case, she hasn't. She's gone the other way. She's got a moral backbone made of granite, and she's gone on to bust this case wide open. So this girl here, praise be to her. Yet she's been through the same horrors probably as young Kyle. Yet she's not gone on to hurt and that. She's gone on to do the opposite. So this just goes to, you know, so we got to look that, you know, hurt people, but, you know, there's others that they've been hurt, and the last thing they'll ever do is hurt another child. It stops with them. And it's called breaking the cycle. And there's many brilliant individuals. If you ever want to watch a superb man who's suffered horrors but gone on to do amazing things, there's a bloke called Bill Maloney of Pie Mash Films. We've got a guy who goes around the country now constantly advocating anti-child abuse rhetoric, a guy called Alan Merritt, superb individual. There's loads of them that have come from absolute horrific backgrounds that have just gone on to, you know, to change things, put things right, and make sure no one goes through them. And Sean Atwood's interviewed quite a few. He's interviewed Darren. You know, the interview he does with Darren, one of the most prolific armed robbers the UK's ever had, and what he went through. You've got guys like Anthony Roberts.
John, I just want to show you an image because I'm planting seeds here, John, because I can't talk about some things, okay? And I just want to go back to this article, and I just want to show you what it says here, right? Silverknowes Beach in Edinburgh, yeah? Okay? You can see it down there, so I'm not making this up, right?
Right.
You want to see a photograph that was taken at Silverknowes Beach?
Oh, wow. Yeah. The old boy lover symbol.
Taken by literally one of the subscribers of my channel.
Wow, look at that. Look at that. The old man boy lovers number signal.
Well, it's sort of been adopted fully as a non-verbal communication for PDF.
Of course it is. Well, we've always communicated in symbols. We dream in symbols. We don't dream in. But going back to this young man, Carl, that you've shown, who's turned into the monster that he is. When we look at Russell Brand with his father taking him to Thailand to have sex with prostitutes, right? How many of your listeners are fathers? How many of your listeners would do that to their young sons? You know, I used to take my kids to water parks and to the beach, and when they're old enough, go and have a pint with them and have a laugh. I never took them to brothels. But why would you do that? And look what he's turned into. Maybe, you know, and his mother's not intervened. And where's the love for women there? It's you know, threatening them, doing this to the, treating them like that. That's not a respectful individual. Why are these feminist groups not speaking out over this man? I don't know, you know, and why are so many women standing up for him? Innocent until proven guilty and all that. Well, of course, yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see what happens there, but not for us to say. But it really baffles me, you know, the idolatry that goes on. And again, this grandstanding there with a picture of Jesus Christ, well, that gets my back up straight away. He's the moment he does that, the moment he has to rely on deity to bolster up his pseudo respectability, he's FUCK'd. He's screwed.
Yeah.
And again, why would anyone randomly spray that on there? I mean, that is the NAMBA, the North American Man Boy Lovers PDF file, and again, silence. Look at that. Now, this is interesting. I want to stick on this at the moment.
Good.
Right now. When
it gets worse. Let me just put up another one.
Well, we'll just stick with this for 2 seconds. When I used to visit addresses that were known for SRA, satanic ritual abuse. This silencing, you would get things like that, and you'd get things, people doing graffiti saying, "You're not of God. Why do you do this to this?" And it's usually when you get ecclesiastical and clergymen doing the abuse. Why do you do this to us? You're not of God. You're evil. And this area here is the site of ritual abuse. I'm telling you now, this area here is a site of ritual abuse. It goes on exactly where this graffiti is.
Well, do you know what? It's funny you say that, John, because just some more delightful further evidence.
A victim's done that. A victim has put that on.
This is a massive dogging site, right? Yeah, that's at Granton Harbour. Sorry, it is a different beach than the one that was reported. I was getting to correct myself there. But yeah, this is Granton Beach. This is where the crimes of the second part of the case originate from. Let me just bring this up for you. Your location. There's nothing here that's going to give away addresses or anything. But this beach is known for a pretty severe dogging culture. The crimes that were reported and were never given justice for, that Dana went through after her mother went to prison, occurred on this beach with biker gangs, with men in masks. She was forced on. She was forced on.
Well, again, it's the same. We found that in London, that the sites where a lot of abuse and ritual abuse went on were well-known homosexual open-air meeting places. And again, it's not a slur on the gay community. We've got to get over this. We've got to start being emotionally mature about all of this, right?
Yeah.
We've got to stop all this about, but no. Right. Look at the facts. And the fact that when you've got this open sexuality, that's what they're prepared to show you openly. What are they not prepared to show you? And it gets dark and it gets dirty and it gets deep very, very quickly.
Well, I mean, right? I wouldn't necessarily say that this is just a gay dogging site. This was very...
No, not at all. I'm not saying that at all. They're obviously, again, with the biker gangs and things like that, you know, that if you look at the interviews with Mike Cordella, the NYPD, he said that a certain biker gang was doing the security for these PDFR parties. I've heard that one group that was holding child abuse parties, which involved priests, and there were certain henchmen from the Irish traveller community were doing the security for that. You know, and again, I'm not slurring any of these communities. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying we've got to start saying facts, saying, well, it is, right? And look, one second, if you just bear with me.
Yeah, you're all right, mate. So I just want to talk about this guy for a while John's away. So this is one of the individuals that was in the original case of Dana Foley's notorious PDF fellow serving life sentence for R-ing children, was found to have abused further victims on Tuesday. Now, this was just last year. One of the victims, Dana Foley, went on to write a book recounting what happened to her at the hands of her mother, Petch, and others. Police began an operation investigating further allegations of historical abuse perpetrated by the serial monster while he was continuing to serve his life term. A judge at the High Court of Edinburgh found further 4 charges brought against him to be established following compelling evidence from witnesses who testified during an examination of facts. Judge Michael O'Grady KC ordered that Petch should be placed in the SFX's register for a 5-year period. Petch was not present during his High Court proceedings after he was ruled to be unfit to stand trial. His solicitor, advocate, blah, blah, blah. He is unfit for trial as a result of medical conditions which have caused deterioration of his ability to actively participate in the court process. He said that Petch has diabetes, cardio... Oh, no one cares, mate.
Yeah, I know. But what you've done here is, if you was to get a bit of paper and start putting these people on there, already you've shown a connection between 2 separate cases. You've shown a connection with this guy's father, right?
I'm 4 years into this, John.
There's what you call a PDF ring. A PDF ring. You've done it, right? It's a ring. And then you get all these journalists going, oh, no, they're not related. This is how an investigation starts. And this can go deep and dark very, very quickly. But do you know what? Stick with it, because
John,
what's
do you
happening
know,
now, this is surfacing, and I'm fully behind you on this one.
do you know, I have got, sadly, Dana's never going to see justice. She passed away. Her kidneys failed in her finally, and it's very, very sad. This is Dana's first book, best-selling book by Dana Foley. And wouldn't you know it, little old me spent years interviewing this woman. Interviews that have never been heard before, but by God, the courts have heard them.
Do you know what? I may have spoke to her. When did she pass away?
It was last November. I think it was last November.
I generally think I spoke to her. I think she contacted me at some point. I'll have to have a look back on my emails.
Yeah. And here's another picture of Kyle. This is round about the time Kyle was committing these crimes.
Toss up.
And I'm telling you now.
But isn't it interesting when you get his defense team going on about his diabetes and this guy, and if he goes to prison, it could affect his health. Do you know, they really sell their souls, these advocates, don't they?
Oh, he's on a life sentence, bro. He's already on a life sentence.
But you know, if you was, you know, there's certain things in your job that you can do. You know they're not right, but you do it. So I speak out, and I when I say, I turn around and say, look, I never gave a shit, right? If drug dealers got their drugs nicked off them and their money nicked, I didn't give a toss. I'm not interested. If ever the corruption police approached me and wanted information regarding that, they ain't getting nothing. I ain't telling them anything. And I did actually get asked once, interviewed, because there was the guy I worked with that was dealing ecstasy, and I just said nothing. Right, well interested. I don't care. Right, it's the same as when people want to have it with the police and they get beaten up. I'm really not effing interested. I don't care. Now that might be corruption. Don't come to me, because I ain't going to tell you anything. Right, a bit like that gangster code of conduct. But I spoke up because I don't like people hurting kids, because they haven't got a choice. Leave them out of it. Just drop them out of it. Don't do it. And I think everyone should be on the same page as me, and the management should, but unfortunately they're not. John, they really ain't. And this is where it all goes so horribly wrong.
Isn't it interesting that Dana, not for the case with her mother, but the case that she's been fighting right up until the day she died, the connection between Kyle and Dana is Dana has taken Kyle's entire family to court for being the ones who abused her, several other people, several animals, several young individuals, this abuse went on so long that when Dana was 15, there was a baby in a buggy that witnessed her being R'd several times. 15 years later, that baby's 15 years old and is R'ing Dana. Just to put into perspective what we were talking to. Obviously, allegedly, okay? But I'm telling you now, about 7 or 8 months from now, there's another court case. And this is going to be important. I want to put this out there because this is important. This is really important. For anyone out there has been multiple claims from the man at the center of this case, who I'm not going to name, who has made multiple threats of making up false allegations of individuals making up stories about very, very dangerous gangsters. Okay. And I want to make it clear that at no point has Dana mentioned any of these prolifically renowned gangsters from Edinburgh and Scotland, but she has mentioned several times on film the use of lies to further put in danger her husband, her children, all of these people, by the individuals at the center of this, making up rumors, okay, that would implicate dangerous people, and then using people that were close to Dana as the apparent source of these lies. And I want to make it clear, at no point has Dana ever mentioned any of these individuals. These are all horrific lies designed to create friction and bloodshed. So that's all I wanted to say, mate.
I knew a guy who was at one point a very, very serious criminal gangster or whatever in Edinburgh, and he was running with that. It was a young lad. Is it Bradley something who got killed?
Bradley Welsh.
Welsh. Yeah, he was running with him. He was sort of buddies with Bradley Welsh
Yeah.
at one point. And
Interesting guy.
he, yeah, my fella, he gets approached by a woman in Edinburgh, and she claimed to run 90% of the brothels in Edinburgh. And she said to him, look, come on board with me, and you can take this empire over, right? It's yours for taking, multi-million pound, everything. It's yours, you can take it. However, you must bring to me your firstborn. And he didn't have a child. He went, well, have a child, bring it to me, and we'll sacrifice it. And it was all witchcraft, all witchcraft. And he told me this woman, she ran the majority of the brothels in Edinburgh, and she was heavily involved in Satanism. And she offered him everything, but he had to sacrifice his firstborn. And a very, very big gangster in Edinburgh.
Bradley Welsh, yeah. Bradley Welsh.
Well, this was Bradley Welsh's that run with Bradley Welsh. Them two.
It was somebody that ran with him, right? I got
yeah. Ran with Bradley. Yeah, these two.
Because I'm telling you now, Bradley Welsh wasn't the sort of guy you mentioned the word kids around if you were a criminal who was doing nasty things to kids.
Well,
he would have ripped your arms off, I would imagine.
Yeah. It's no implication on him or my fella because my mate said he turned it down. He said, no, I'm not doing that. But what he told me, he said to me, all these people that visit these brothels in Edinburgh, he said, the woman who runs it is a massive Satanist. They're all, yeah.
Let me see if it's been.
And he offered to take me to show me them and everything. This guy's a born again Christian now. He's tough man. Really, probably one of the toughest guys I know. And yeah, that's what he did. He said, yeah, come and I'll show you. Oh, see this Underworld. There's just been the Daily Mail has just done an article on the Cray twins, and there's a group of brothers called the Teal Brothers, and they've this one of the Teals just said that he was hard by Ronnie Cray, and he just says, why do people worship these people? They're vile, they're into such terrible vile things. And he said, and I was a young lad, and this is what he did to me. So and I've spoke out about it. I've been threatened by their family. I remember their family threatened me, the Cray twins family, because I did make sort of insinuating remarks about them along them front. But I don't care for adults. I always make it clear, I don't care for adults. If I upset an adult, I'm really not interested. Get over it. I don't like people hurting children. I just don't like it. I don't care who they are. And I stood up against the Met Police, and the government for their cover up, and I'd stand up against gangsters as well in that. Same. I'm not interested. I hold no fear for you people if that's what you're involved in. Anything else, I'll keep my mouth shut. I don't really care. I'm not going to grass anyone up, but don't go doing this with children. I don't give a toss who you are. Don't do it. And survivors, this girl Dana, power to you for speaking up. That's bravery. That's real bravery. And all these other people that get interviewed about doing 20 years in prison, and I did this, and I'm not interested. Seriously, unless
we've got Dana's husband coming on the show in a couple of weeks.
Well, bless him.
Dana's oldest son, and the maddest part of this, John, the man who Dana married was the unknowing black sheep of the same family that abused her.
Oh. Let me try and work that one out. So he was linked to the family that abused her.
No, it was the younger brother of her main abuser. But the younger brother of this family was the one that had no connection to any of this. He's the only one that wasn't part of any of it.
But isn't it a shame?
Isn't it wild? Isn't it wild that one day you'd wake up and your wife turns to you, I need to tell you something. For the last 15 years, your big brother has been doing X, Y, and Z to me with X, Y, and Z of his family. And it's one of these things where it's like, it's almost, you can't really believe it, but it's the truth.
But there was a guy come to me, and he was very, very connected in the criminal world. Yeah. And he tells me this horrific story. He had a twin sister, and they were in a kids' home, and they were so badly abused, and they took him and his sister to a party, and they said to him, "You're to are your own sister." and he said it was all old, white, wealthy men, always the same demographic with these things, right? But back then it would have been. But now it's probably a bit more ethnically mixed, but back then it would have been. And he wouldn't do it, right? And they said, if you don't, we're going to do it. And his mindset was, well, so many people have asked her that what does it matter? But he wouldn't do it. And he then had to watch while all these old men did that to his sister. And he was a well-known criminal, this guy, and he was sitting there crying his eyes out in front of me and said, I was a coward. What have I done and all that? And I said, but you weren't a coward. You was a child. You had no choice. You had no choice. They had the choice. Now here's something for you. My good friend who's a well-known therapist and profiler for these people, serious offenders, right? So bear in mind, I might go blank on you in a minute. I've just got to deal with something. I need to relay something. So I'll come back to you in 2 seconds.
That's all right, brother. No problem. All right. So far this evening, we've covered Russell Brand. We're touching on the charges and the guilty verdict against Kyle Kernican and the steps forward in unveiling other interesting facts that to come to life.
Sorry, I'm back with you. It's only the logistics where I am. Anyway, so my friend, very well-known therapist, so she said this guy gets sent to her by the courts, and she said he's a bus driver, big black guy, and he gets done for of a young girl, a 5-year-old girl, and part of his thing is he has to have this therapy, and so he sits in front of her and she stands up and she makes him stand up one-to-one. She said he's imposing, he's over 6 foot, big guy, and she says, right, go down lower, and in the end she said, I put his head where the head of a 5-year-old kid was, and she said he is less than on his knees. He said he's crouched right down and his head is at her groin height. And she's a lady in her mature years, you know, and he's a man in his 40s. And she said to him, right, open my jeans, open my trousers now, open them and take them down. Bear in mind, she's a therapist. And he's like, what are you on about? She said, I've told you, take my trousers off now. And he's like, I can't. So she shouts at him, right? Take my trousers off, unbutton them, pulls her top up. So a woman she was in her mid-50s then, take my trousers off. And she's shouting at him. He breaks down in tears. And she was telling me last night, she said, he is crying and he's shaking, he's frightened. And she turns around and she said, right. So is it a child's job to say no? And he went, I couldn't say no, I couldn't. She said, yeah, but you went to court and you said that the kid should have said no. Now look at you now. She said, I just brought him back to the broken child that he was, because all these people are broken children. And then I become, you know, she knew what she was doing. Really brutal, but she's so sick. She's got a 98% success rate of stopping people reoffend, these brutal sexual offenders.
That's an interesting one. So, what kind of therapy is this? Trauma therapy? No, but I imagine it would be shocks in the same category of like shock.
Well, it doesn't matter. Whatever it was, it works, right?
Yeah,
it works.
Unconventional therapy.
Unconventional, but she's like me. She's there for the children. She said, but this bloke, and she went to court and she said it in court. She said, it is not for the child to say no.
Correct.
It is not. So this brings us back to what we started with Mr. Brand, that 16-year-old girl. It is not for her to say no, right? If she's had enough, she's had enough. He's got to stop, and that's it.
Correct.
We've got to stop. And, you know, and all these campaigns, it's, you know, children just say no. They're written by PDF files. It should be the other way round. The emphasis should be on the adult. It's the adult's job.
Like, I'm not being funny, right? If the campaign is kids just say no, what dumbass has written this? So now, once the 7-year-old has said no, right, and the PDF file goes, no, okay, well, never mind. Did they just back off?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm wrong. Sorry about that. You know, big imposing, whatever it is. You know, it is not for the child to say no. And this is where it's so wrong. And that's why the people that write these prevent things and they're PDF files themselves, because they're putting the responsibility and the onus on the child. Oh, come on. We need to get a grip in our society. We need to stop this stupid logic that we got in our head. We need to start protecting our children, and we need to do it aggressively. We need to aggressively protect our children, and those that harm the kid, the police need to go after them like pit bulls.
That's not. In fact, you know what? Let's not go down. Oh.
No, I'm on about the Home Secretary ordering her police.
Sorry,
I'm not on about the public to start doing it. I'm on about the Home Secretary needs to task the police to go after PDF files like pit bulls.
No, I'm with you, but rather than me getting sucked into a 20-minute rant about how the system is so broken, and it would be great to have all of these independent teams. It would be great to have this and the next thing. But John, I came up with a solution to fix everything.
It's not that bear spray again, is it?
Nope, it's not the bear spray. Better one this time.
Right, go on.
I would like to change it in the UK so that every single police officer who was accused of anything, whether it's cover-ups, whether it's not listening to the family of the victims or taking cases seriously, I would like to see a public panel of 10 members of the public selected at random, can do it over a Zoom call, to make the final decision on every single public servant's career when anything is brought as a challenge to their job. Are you telling me that police officers and anybody else won't sort their crap out if they know it's the public that has the final say on their job?
Yeah. There's quite interesting. There's a woman YouTuber, and she travels across Africa on this like this bike, whatever. I can't remember the name of it, but it's one of these bikes that go on the road and they go on the dirt. It's just like this lovely thing. And she just films herself, and she get millions and millions of views. And she gets to Nigeria, everything goes really swimmingly well. She goes to Nigeria, and of course the police officers going like that, money. But she's filming it. Anyway, she reports it, because you've got so many followers globally, it becomes a bit of an international incident. So exactly that, the commissioner of the police in Nigeria held a panel all open.
That's what I'm saying.
And then when they were found guilty, they were publicly taken out to this parade square and stripped of their uniform. He went up publicly and he took everything off them.
Let's add on the public stripping of the uniform as well. Okay, let's add that onto what I said.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying. And also, someone said we call that a jury. I don't mean. I mean for disciplinary. I just mean from a disciplinary. I don't mean from a criminal thing. I mean, you've not done your job properly as a policeman, and now you're held accountable by the public.
But as long as it's not done by a load of sort of proper Keir Starmer, lefty, Trotskyite, politicians, like Rayner, Reid, and all that.
We'd just write a bit of code. Right, that every time one of these things happen, it just goes randomly out, and you're invited on to be a Zoom call to pass judgment. And I'm telling you, it would solve so many problems.
But by sterling members of society, ex-military guys and whatnot, Decent,
no.
All
of us, man. It would have to be a cross section of the demographic, man. Do you know? I'd be throwing in a homeless guy on each jury just to balance it out, mate. Do you know what I'm saying?
Men of valor and good cheer,
Yeah, right. So the last thing also as well, we've got a couple of people waiting to do some call-in stuff with us, John. And I just want to quickly touch on. And listen, John, you're the most interesting person to talk to about this case, right?
Yeah.
Because
do you know what I'm going to do? Because I did see this come up earlier in your message to me. Now what I need on this one, I want to do some research, because David Davis, the MP for Herefordshire or somewhere, he's the MP that's been really campaigning for this girl. Mm-hmm. And I think in order to do this discussion justice, I think I should look at David Davis's report on this. Just do a good bit of journalism here, because this is what it's become. It's become a nice little sort of hub of research sort of stuff that we put out here.
Yeah,
I,
man.
I want
Absolutely.
to look into David Davison's report and his conclusion on this. And let's look into this, because this is a very, very deep topic, the Lucy Letby. We did one
Oh,
earlier based really on the offences and what we know about
right.
her, right? But David Davis has gone into incredible detail, and he's the one that brought this before a review, an appeal and everything else. So, yeah, if you can give me a bit of time to go through
Absolutely.
what he's
So
done.
look, there's one name. There's one name you need to keep in mind, and that is Shu Lee. Okay.
Right.
This man is at the center of the medical report, the largest pediatric investigation in history. He is the top dog for pediatrics in Canada at universities.
Right.
They've actually got a rash that appears on kids that's called the Shu rash, because he was the guy that realized that this rash only appears in children when oxygen's heading into the heart or the blood system, right? Or
Right.
the scary stuff. So he saved millions of kids' lives. There's no one above him, John, in the pediatric world. So this is the guy putting his career on the line. So it's interesting. It's
Right.
interesting.
Okay. Yeah. Let me look into that. Give me a
I will.
couple of weeks on that one.
Yeah, I will.
Because I'm fascinated at the moment by. I want to do something if we can on the Barrymore thing, because
Yes,
it's
please.
uh,
Please.
this the pathologist, the coroner, keeps cropping up and cropping up and cropping up all over the place.
Right.
But yeah, it's only because I sort of got to know the family, and I've got a little bit of loyalty there, and
Yep.
so that's that. But
Well, yeah.
I'm,
So there's 2 episodes right there that you guys can be looking forward to.
and I happily do my research. I want to buy Russell Brand's biography. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to have a read of that, because I think he'll be telling us a lot about himself on that one
That's
as
interesting.
well.
Yeah.
So,
It's funny. I think about 3 or 4 people in the side chat have said exactly what you just said there. They've said his books are very telling. So yeah, Ron, what's the
that's
doctor's
right.
name? Oh yeah, Dr. Shu. Dr. Shu. Sorry, here you are.
So okay, right.
Let me
Let me check. Send me a list of the things through, and I'll get going on that, because I am.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll WhatsApp
It
you.
gives me a bit of purpose, being
You're
retired.
right.
So.
It's bonkers, man. If it was just like a bunch of regular people who'd done an investigation or whatever, nobody would. It wouldn't be as fascinating. But when somebody who is the top dog is putting their career on the line, I think we need to listen. And here's another.
I agree. I agree.
But here's the argument. Here's the interesting argument I love about the Lucy Letby case. Because when we talk about a child unaliving nurse, there isn't much more of a horror story than that, John. Are the crimes too severe for us to ever consider that we have the wrong person? Because there's so many people that are like, oh, we can't drag it up for the parents again. If my kid was one of these kids,
no, you'd want justice, wouldn't you? I
right?
mean, and the one thing with justice, it brings about healing. So I think that's a nonsense. I think that's a wishy-washy sort of way of looking at it. No. Let's bring the horrors out to the open. And those that can't stomach it, well, you're just going to have to grow up, because you're not the ones that went through it. And that was my opinion with the child S abuse as well. Well, it wasn't you that went through it. Just stomach it and deal with it. And it should
Right?
be this is one thing. I was having a conversation with Maggie Oliver, and I said, this is a conversation we should be having. In fact, it's a conversation that no one wants to have.
I had the privilege for the first time on Wednesday last week of meeting Maggie for the first time. We done a grooming gang panel with Maggie and a couple of incredible ladies, Gemma and Kate, both survivors of severe, like horrific grooming gang crimes. Like, it's horrible. And what an incredible lady.
Yeah. So when I first spoke out, it was me, her, and Lenny Harper, and we really supported each other. And Maggie came with me on the walk to Manchester. There's another guy called Pete Jackson, another police whistleblowers. But on the child stuff, it was Maggie, myself, and Lenny Harper, and we were very, very sort of cohesive. We stuck together and we supported each other really well. Maggie supported me through the very early years, she stood by me. She stood by me quite well. She sort of went her way because she became media famous, and I didn't. Mainly because my narrative didn't really meet the criteria for Muslim GGs, and it didn't, and that seemed to be the popular narrative. But we always remained in contact with each other, and we both give evidence at the 2022 ICSA. We both give evidence together. We had the same barrister, so we've known each other. I think nearly 10 years. I've been pals with Maggie.
Yeah, she's an awesome lady, and it's interesting because I know I've heard you say it a few times when people talk about the grooming gangs and the demographics that are most commonly known. And you sort of say, well, look, it's a small percentage of a larger problem, and
Yeah.
most of this happens within the home. And listen, I completely get what you're saying, but I sometimes feel like we drag down the multiple cross sections of this abuse, John. Trying to see it as a broad picture is sometimes too much for people.
Yeah,
And they need it rubbed in their face a lot, man.
This is heavily political, and of course, anything to do with that Muslim side of it, the government seem to protect it for some bizarre reason. And anyone who speaks out, they just get smashed down to the floor. And I mean, I know a girl called Ellie Reynolds, and they're doing a lot of TV stuff with her. She was over in Cumbria, and she's a victim of it, and she's the one who fought back and got arrested for it and went to prison for it. It's just appalling, and I know her and I know her family, and they're brilliant people. And so it's good to see now that the media are following Ellie's story and putting
What
it
was her
out
name?
there.
Sorry, what was her name?
Ellie Reynolds.
This is so weird. Hang on a minute.
Yeah, I've known Ellie the years. I've known her father. He's a lovely guy.
Dude, that is crazy. Right? So I'm pretty sure like 2 days ago she was on GB News, or a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, she probably was. She probably was.
And this is so odd because I messaged Sean. I'm like, is there any way we can get in contact with this woman through GB News if he had a contact there?
I mean, I'll send her a message for you.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And let me arrange that. I'll send a message to her and her father, and
I'll leave it in your hands.
Problem.
Because again,
what I did was I set up a campaign, and I had a T-shirt with an elephant on it. Right, Ellie, Nelly, the elephant. I don't know. Anyway. It was justice for Ellie, right? And I wore it. And it was back in the days when I was getting heavily trolled. And someone reported me, and I think it was an ex-policeman who was a bit bitter, to the Attorney General. And I got threatened by the Attorney General with imprisonment if I covered her case.
Yeah.
So I know, like Tommy Robinson's, because he went away for doing it, but I got the same. I got the same. If you mention Ellie Reynolds again, you'll go to prison. And I went out to wear these, and I went and made these T-shirts out with a little elephant.
John, I don't think I've ever met anyone in my life who has been officially told to stop talking about public information as much as you. Who was that guy that you tried to interview that one?
The Attorney General, they sent me a message. I got a thing through from the Home Office, shut your mouth over it. And so I had to ring her dad out and say, look, he's a lovely guy. I won't name him, but he knows me and I know him. And I said, look, I've just been threatened for speaking out for your daughter. But do you know the good thing, the really heartwarming thing about this, that whenever Ellie went anywhere, the retired Guards regiment, they chaperoned her. Isn't that nice? Yeah. Our ex-military guys, the retired Guards regiment, would turn up on their motorbikes. They got like this sort of bike club with their little Guards berets, and they chaperoned her everywhere. So, and they were. I love all that sort of stuff when they do that. Beautiful, and that was absolutely. Yeah, and so there's some. The one thing all this has done it's brought so many people together. What I've done, what many others have done, and with me, it's mainly with the ex-criminals, but we've shown, organised gangsters come together, ex-military guys come together, and everything, because we just don't like people having SCX with children. And I've sat down with the 1% Bikers Club, if that means anything to anyone. I've sat down with them, and they've shown their support. And
do you know, that's really odd, right? Because I think what we need to do is sit down offline, John, and have a chat. Because I've got a really interesting idea for certain two-wheeled operators that I think could be quite an interesting little.
Well, of course I will do, but just remember this, right? So there's a survivor group called the Beach Home Survivors Group,
Okay.
and the first Wednesday of every month, I would attend with the Beach Home Survivors Group. It consists of a man called Alan Merritt,
Okay.
Sue Peake, Jean, and a woman called Moira, and they all went to the Beach Home kids home and just wretched stuff happened to these. But they were a few years my senior, but they were brilliant. And every month we'd stand outside at PMQs on a Wednesday and we'd protest. We'd say, no more, no more. And it went from like 3 of us and then it got bigger and bigger. And it turned into this massive thing. So in the end, I decided, well, why don't we sort of have a bit of a protest? So I went and met with the 1% bikers people when they were like, well, we're going to give you our support. We're against this. The fire service, the LFB, they were like, because I love the fire brigade for the fact that they stand together. I really like them for that. In the police hate the firemen and all that, but I couldn't rely on the police because they're just prostitutes to their pension. So you've got to write them off. They're not going to help you, and they'll get sacked if they do. But there are good coppers. But the fire brigade have always brought about change. They brought about change with the March True case in Belgium, and they're quite awesome. The LTDA, the London Taxi Drivers Association, are sort of like a mafia in their own right. They were good, so they said, "Well, we'll come along."
Mafia in their own right. You know, you're so right. You really are.
They are. And they can bring London to a standstill. And they used to do it once every Thursday and bring the whole of London to standstill over the Uber drivers. So that anyway. So I went to them and they said, "We're backing you." So I went to this little group of guardsmen to help Ellie Reynolds, and I said, "Would you be prepared to come?" They said, "Not only will we come, we'll bring our standard bearers and our marching band."
Hell yeah!
Right, all these ex-guardsmen, they were going to come along and with the flagler band, and then they said, "Well, talk to these guys, right?" The Gurkhas, Retired Gurkhas Association, they did it. I then get contacted by a group from the Royal Marines who said, "Right, we're with you, right? We're retired lads, from this unit in Royal Marines. We're going to stand by you." And so I said, "Right, well, let's have this sort of big march through Whitehall." We managed to get the license to do it, and I based it on a film called Pride, which was about a load of lesbian and homosexuals that during the miners' strike got together to raise money for the Welsh miners. And of course, at first, the Welsh miners didn't like them because they thought, "Oh, we don't want no Greece down here," and all that sort of stuff. And then they realised that these guys actually were radicalised and quite supportive. And they managed to get this huge protest, which sort of really unofficially brought the miners' strike to an end. And it was all the collieries had the colliery bands, all this, and this group of homosexuals based sort of over off the Gray's Inn Road in King's Cross. They had like a little bookshop there. It's called Pride. It's a really good film actually, and they set one of the biggest protests ever, but peaceful, with marching bands, with all the colliery bands and everything turning up. And I sort of based it along their ideology because I just thought it was fantastic doing. And it was really going good. I was just getting calls from people all around saying, "We're going to support you." Even this will make you laugh. I got the Freemasons. I've got a biker club run by an ex-copper, and he said, "We would like to support you, the Freemasonic Bikers Club." And of course, a few people got funny about it. And I went, no. Support is support. Don't be like that. No. So I said to the guy, "Come along." He said, "Would you like to..."
The problem with the Masons is it's so open to corruption, right?
Well, I get that. This was the issue, but the guy that run their bikers club was a survivor of abuse.
No, I don't mean the biker club. I mean for example, when you found a lodge, like if you're a PDF file and you go through your career in the Masons and you end up as a master Mason, you can then you know, the one that runs the lodge, you can then go on to found your own lodge with enough signatures. And if you've acquired enough PDF pals, you could have a literal lodge founded on those ethoses, and it would be running in tandem with every other lodge. And those are the ones you got to watch, man. Because
no. So I was aware of all of that, and I was aware of like some of the people of the ritual abuse ones had said that they're loads of cakes. Have some cake. Have some cake.
Get the cakes out, mate. That's what we like.
What happens is where I work, the security around here, they've got no access to toilets and whatnot, so I let them come in, and I always put some cakes down for them, so they have a cake.
Have a cake and a pea. That sounds
they have a cake
awesome.
and a pea. Right. They're lovely. And these guys, they're like from Afghanistan and all that, and they 1 minute, stay with me.
Do your thing. Do your thing. So you've heard John talking there about Ellie Reynolds. Her interview with GB News, I posted it in the side chat. Here is the title of it. You can see down here. I don't know how I survived. Grooming gang survivor bravely shares her story, and it's crazy, and it's going to anger a lot of you. And this woman needs to, her story needs to be heard. So anything that John says he's going to do his best for us and see what he can do, and I'm very excited to see that. But isn't it weird, John, that I had not heard of any Ellie Reynolds until about 3 days ago when I watched something, and you just so happened to bring her up? You're muted. You rascal. Still muted. You're still muted for some reason, John.
There we go. Sorry, it's a lot of screen. Yeah, I got you with it, Ellie. Yeah, and then she contacted me a little while back when she sort of won some sort of law case and whatever. But they went after her. They imprisoned her, and they imprisoned. I think her father got threatened with it and all sorts. And it was all a mess. And it was horrible. Go back about 5 years. But anyway, so I set up this protest, and I'm thinking, this is brilliant. The world needs to know that we've all had enough of it, but it does go on, right? So that's all planned. I'll go on social media, I'll put it all up, and I'm really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to seeing just the decent people of this country
100%.
coming forward and saying, we've had enough of people doing this to children. Anyway, 2 weeks before it's due to go ahead, I get a call, and it's John, it was Saturday morning, 10 o'clock. My name is so-and-so, so-and-so. I work for SIS. Now, for those who don't know, SIS is an acronym for the Secret Intelligence Services. Right? So that encompasses MI5, a special branch, and MI6, right? So that's it. So I'm now being called up by their collective organisation, SIS. They're based. And if anyone wants to know, they're based in Spring Gardens in Vauxhall. And good luck with that one. I think the IRA tried to blow them up with a rocket missile once, but failed. And do you know the bizarre thing is where MI5 are based, where they're one side of the river, south at MI6. And then there's Spring Gardens, which is where all the intelligence services for all these agencies are all based. But at the same point, in the same little area, and it's all based. They're all built under the railway arches from the Waterloo to the south west lines. As you go out of London, there's all these little arches, and that is where all the main homosexual and dungeon and sort of whipping nightclubs are all based.
Nightclubs.
Yeah. Dominatrix nightclubs and the gay torture chambers. They are all based in and around where all the government intelligence agencies are in the area. That's where they all are. So what are the chances of that one? If you're into geographical profiling, then your quid's in with that one.
Honestly, John, there's so many. Like, I want to say this, I want you to imagine like Monty Python, Fawlty Towers style level comedy. But there's so many scenarios in my brain where you're on holiday and accidentally wander into one of these nightclubs, and it's a very much slapstick comedy experience in my brain.
Isn't it the one with Police Academy when they walk into the Blue Oyster Bar
right? Something like that, bro. Honestly, I'm just saying, like,
it's quite
too funny.
iconic, isn't it? It was a bit like that, but isn't it weird if you're talking about compromisation? You know that it's always in these areas. And I was speaking to a journalist, and the journalist said to me, "Look, we concentrate on going to these coffee shops now. This also is the area by what's called the South Lambeth Road. All the intelligence agencies are there, but it's the heart of the Portuguese. We call them the pork and cheese." The pork and cheese and the Madeiran community. So there's all these little Portuguese tapas bars, all that. And what the journalists do, they go into these coffee shops, tapas bars, and everything else, which are just a stepping stone away where they sell alcohol. And the next step is for the intelligence officers to go into these gay dungeon clubs and get spanked, beaten, and whatever. And they just sit there and drink and listen to the intelligence officers talking. And they film them and the audio record them, and every now and then one of them leaves a laptop. So whenever you get these laptops that are left by defence ministers, it's always in this bar, this one bar. It's always in this bar. It's been
That's so random.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
more
they know they're going
government
to get
secrets
drunk
found
and
under a table. Love
yeah.
it.
Well, anyway, I'll get a call from the SIS one Saturday morning. John Wedger, look, this is who we are. I'm so and so from SIS, and we've been monitoring your social media and your calls for the last 3 months. Right. Anyway, and he said, look, you're an honourable guy. You know, you're liked. And he said, there's some of the guys,
What?
there's some of
No, stop.
well,
That
some of my old colleagues, because of the intelligence work I was doing, they went on to SIS. They transferred.
okay. So it wasn't like an undermined threat. It wasn't like, luckily you got a high enough score that you get to survive here, John. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, that's basically what it was. So he said, look, there's the few old Bill that have transferred over to SIS, and they really like you. They said they don't say anything bad about you, and in fact, we've been monitoring you, and you're a likable. You actually, we call you an honourable man, right? We don't want to hurt you. We don't want to hate you, right?
Nice.
He said, but you know, your friend Mr. Robinson, he will be in and out of prison. Don't make that your reality. So I think at that time they were going after Tommy Robinson, and so what's happening to Tommy Robinson is coming from the intelligence services, not from the police. But again, that's no secret, is it? You know. So he said, you're different to that. You know, you need to be at liberty. You don't need that. So I said, well, what do you want from me? And they said, well, look, you took the police on, you won there, but this is a bit of a different game, John. You're becoming politically unstable. Because of
John Wedger, the radicalized era, right?
well, it's because of the fact that 1 million people a month follow me on Facebook and stuff like that. I did monumental because I hit it at that early time, you know. And he just said, "You need to cancel that march. That has to stop now."
What?
I went, well, what do I do? So he said, "Right, log on to your Facebook." And I logged on. They logged on. So they had access to my Facebook as well. They went, right, can you type this thing in as a page? And it's basically, due to unforeseen circumstances, the next march will have to be cancelled, but there will be another, blah, blah, blah. And I had to cancel the march.
Dang.
And, but he said, if you don't, there's every chance you're going to be arrested. So,
Jesus.
So I backed down. Does that make me coward? I don't know, but I backed down.
No, I think, right, when the company that represents the scariest letter groups of the UK calls you politely and says, "Hey, you're going to have to do this," I don't know if that's
that's what he said to me. Is the three letter agency? It's not like the police, you know. I wasn't given a choice. Take it down.
Yeah, this is black bagging you level, mate. This is what this is.
You know, it wasn't going to go my way. It weren't going to go my way. I was in a bit of trouble there, but it was good to know that what we'd done, we'd gone so far that you know, we was an influence. But look, if you give me a couple of minutes, I've just got to go and.
When you come back, we're going to take some calls, John, and then we'll wrap it up. So make sure you guys like and subscribe and push this out. It was weird when I was talking to John there, and he was talking about these nightclubs. Anytime anyone talks about those kind of clubs, the real seedy, dark, dungeony clubs, right? It takes me back to when I was at uni and my university tutor, when I was doing digital storytelling, for some reason told me for homework to watch the movie Irreversible, right? And that kind of burned into my brain these underground seedy bars. We're not talking about like the playful ones where, you know, you and your missus go or whatever, and like there's sparkly lights and it's all fancy. We're talking about real grimness. And put a one in the side chat if you've seen the French movie Irreversible, because I've never been the same since seeing this movie. Like it is. I mean, don't get me wrong. It taught me a lot about digital storytelling, right? But man, it was something else. I'll tell you that. Don't watch it. Don't get curious. Read the synopsis, right? But the whole movie plays backwards. So not like what, but the first scene you see is the last scene of the movie, and it plays through all the scenes. Oh. Yeah, it's a French film called. It's definitely not on Netflix. Okay, definitely not on Netflix. But here is, and no, do you know what? The fact that it says film of the year and most important film you will see this year. Don't go watching this film. Okay, it's not like a Serbian movie. No, it's not like that. This one is sadly very much in the realms of like everyday reality. You know, so yeah, that Serbian movie is, that's another mad one. But yeah, anyway, so when John gets back, we'll take some calls on Discord.
Here I am back on the scene. I just had to help out one of my.
Yeah, that's right. When you were talking about the underground clubs, John, there's a movie that my university tutor told me to watch, which was called Irreversible, and it has a scene in one of those clubs. And again, we're not talking about the fancy ones. We're talking about the real dark, dingy, underground ones. Anyway, so listen, we're going to take some callers, and we're going to go with Uber first because you know he's the call-in mascot. What is happening, Mr. Uber Fuber? How are you today, sir?
I'm all right, mate. Thank you. Sorry, I had to unmute my mic there.
Yeah, that's all right, mate. How are you doing? You're live on the channel with John and myself. Have you got a question or a point you want to throw in at any of the cases that we've spoken about?
I do, actually. Hi, John. Hi, mate.
Hello, mate.
On the Russell Brand thing, I'm trying to educate people when they think he hasn't done anything wrong, but, you know, some people just don't listen. But here's a theory I have, John. It's probably going to go Crown, right? So do you not think that he could be, you know, putting this in the public eye as much as he can to say that it could be that the jury's been tainted by all this publicity? And you know, can he be doing that?
Yeah, he's using his social media status as his insurance policy, and that's what he's doing. He's using the influence and the fact that I've been talking about conspiracies and cover-ups, and look, now I'm at the centre of one. So very much so it's what they call an insurance policy, and that's what he's doing.
Yeah,
he's doing exactly that, and
which is what his faith thing is in my eyes as well. That's kind of an insurance thing as well with him.
Yeah, and he's always going on about that the government clamp down on whistleblowers and you know, I'm speaking out and all that. And this is one thing I said on another show the other day, and I went, they said, well, because Russell's speaking the truth, they're attacking him. I said, but what is Russell Brand telling us that we don't know? what is he really telling us that we don't know? That Jordan Peterson doesn't tell us, that David Icke doesn't tell us, that Jordan Maxwell hasn't told us. There's nothing new coming out of his gob. He just regurgitated. Look, someone like myself, right, and Lenny Harper or Maggie Oliver, we can give you first-hand accounts of how the government have silenced us and attacked us and covered up crime because we were there. We experienced government corruption and we went through it and we got through it. He hasn't.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing, right? His wife is a self-proclaimed Satanist, right? Katy Perry. He was knocking around.
Yes, he's not married to her, is he?
No, so I mean a bit of a biscuit.
That's right.
He was knocking around with Andrew Sachs's granddaughter, the one he sort of attacked on that thing, and he was turning around, and he was he called her a slapper or something like that, right? And but she was in a band called the Satanic Sluts, so we've already seen that from Katy Perry being a proclaimed Satanist and openly saying she sold her soul, to another bird he's involved with, Andrew Sachs's granddaughter, in a burlesque satanic band called the Satanic Sluts, right? He was in a multi-billion-dollar Hollywood industry, which is just synonymous with wrongdoing, ritualistic stuff. He's telling us about American Congress and all this sort of political chicanery that's going on. He's not telling us about any sort of malevolent and occultic wrongdoing that goes on in Hollywood around the actors, which he may or may not be involved in. And I would have thought his missus definitely was involved in. He's not telling us about members of satanic groups in Hollywood, sites of satanic rituals, the abuse that went on, the organised RN that went on. He's not telling us anything. So if he wants to gob
It's
off,
not telling us he's innocent either, because there's no reliable denial on anything he's saying.
well, it's not giving us anything, is there? If he wants to speak out, let's speak out about the ritual abuse that goes on about Hollywood, which is, even films like Rosemary's Babies have alluded to it, and Stanley Kubrick alluded to it. They've all alluded to it. He was in the belly of the beast. He made an insurmountable amount of wealth out of it and privilege out of it.
Still there?
This sounds very vernacular, right? But this guy's been sucking the devil's cock all his working life, and now he does it.
Allegedly. No,
allegedly.
I just googled that band, the Satanic ladies you were talking about there, and I mean it's so in your face. It's unreal. And do you not think when it comes to the satanic side of Russell Brand's ex encounters, do you not think that he's the sort of person that they would be trying to suck into their ranks? Do you know? Because I mean, if we were trying to look at this from a place where we've got to be objective, right? And we say that Russell Brand is tied up in some huge big conspiracy, all this kind of stuff, blah blah blah, and he's turned down two women that are a clear gateway into a further cabal who want to get his teeth into them, and he rejects it. Could we not see this as a orchestrated takedown? I mean, obviously, we know where we all stand here.
Well, of course, right? So I was asked the other day.
I think that's what he wants us to think.
I went on to a guy called Luke. He runs a show, and he said, "Is Russell Brand guilty of these crimes? Is it also an orchestrated takedown?" And I said, "Yes, on both counts. Yes and yes." But when you speak out, right? I spoke out about the government, the police force initially, and then the government and the wider thing, for their complicity in ignoring horrific crimes against children. Now, at the time, my colleague in this was Maggie Oliver. She did the same, and she was bullied. And then we had Lenny Harper was going on about the kids' home in Haute de la Garenne, in which kids were murdered, and he did the same. And we were all publicly attacked. Lenny probably more than anyone else. I know Maggie's the better known out of all of them, but really the one that was the more stoic was Lenny Harper. Man, that guy was seriously a tough cookie and stood his ground, and I did my bit and I stood my ground. But I said to people, if you want to speak out about the government and about the police and all that, you better be clean. Because if you don't think they're going to come for you and drag your dirt out, you're an idiot. Anyone who's been through a family court divorce, if you don't think that the other side's not going to leave your promiscuity and you know you're sort of playing away and ignore it and not bring it up, you're an idiot. Your whole life is going to be laid bare before the court. It's going to happen. So the fact that they're bringing up Russell Brand's passport, yeah, that's part of the game. Not only are they should be bringing it up, because damn right, I would be bringing it up. If you're going to speak out about what we're doing to the world and what we're doing to this, and saying it's all demonic, yet you've been sucking the devil off for most of your work in life, mate. and you don't expect a kickback where you must be either arrogant or incredibly thick. Well, I don't think it's thick at all, but the arrogance.
I mean, even his move to faith, you'd expect him to be telling the truth now. If he's gone to Jesus and he wants everything in the light, why isn't he being honest? I can't see any honesty in anything he says, John, and you know this yourself.
He should be putting his hands fully up, and he should be falling on his sword. He should be apologising to his victims, and he should say, "Look, there's more. I'm gonna, take the wind out the other side's sails," but he won't. And his journey to Jesus.
He's not gonna hold his hands up for anything he did wrong.
Listen, I've got a film coming out called Redemption. And it's probably going to be the best film ever made, right?
Obviously.
Buy a copy of it. Please pay for Redemption.
No problem, John, eh?
Well, Redemption about 3 high-profile gangsters in the United Kingdom who were dangerous men. These were men that no one could change them. You couldn't even get near them. They were beyond help. But one person didn't. That was Jesus Christ. They go on. These people, what they do now, they're just pure vessels for the man that is Jesus Christ, the real gangster, the real G, the real tough guy, Jesus Christ. People like Stephen French. I mean, that man is now so solid in his work for Christ. He is saving thousands of young men from suicide at the moment. Yep. He's doing work beyond work. I'm just
keep in mind as well. Keep in mind the way that John speaks about Stephen French. Stephen French was so prolific. His name on the street was the Devil. Right, we're not talking about like a little bit. We're not talking about like, I was a little bit of a criminal. We're talking about individuals who are so ruthless in their game that at some points there was definitely discussions.
Well, not only did Stephen French hate the police because Liverpool was cited as the most racist police force in Europe, and there was a government report come out of that. Right, he hated white people at the same time, so. He would never engage with me, a white Southern policeman and whatnot.
I interviewed Stephen French in a 3-part series with him, and what a totally different man he is now.
Of course.
Absolutely legend. And anyone who wants to get a contrast, and if you want to, see who Stephen French was, and then compared to who he is now. When John's movie comes out on YouTube, there is an episode called Britain's Hardest Man with Danny Dyer, and there's an episode all about Stephen French, and this is back in the slick suits and the peaking era of his life, and that you really watch that to get the contrast when John's movie comes out. Now, John, a very serious question for you.
Right? On one part of it, he turns around and he gets hold of me. He said, John Wedger, me and you are going to go forward and we're going to do work so amazing that it's never been done before. And, totally the opposite side of the fence and everything else. But the man has changed. He's doing good. It's pure repentance. I do it with Chris Lambriano, an infamous murderer, seen as probably the most violent man in Parkhurst prison. And even when he interviewed the governor of Parkhurst, he called called Chris a bastard. Said, "What, that bastard? No one can change him." Chris Lambriano is 86 years old now. He dedicates his time helping young men not kill themselves, not commit knife crime, non-stop at that age. It's an absolute incredible man. And there's a man called Ez Catel Escator, anyone from the East End of London that's involved in the clubs and the drug scene and all that will know who Escator was. You know, he was a force to be reckoned with. A big, 7.5 foot, hard, no nonsense black guy that would punch your face in as soon as look at you.
Well,
and he runs a church now. He runs a church now, and he helps people. And this is what we've done. So you know, turning the lives around and doing good work. But there's others that are hiding behind it. They're actually hiding along it, and we can smell them. We know what they're doing, but hopefully the judicial system will come through and you know, edify what we've been saying.
John,
well,
where do you sorry, Ron?
Yes, right, mate.
Where do you stand on the Letby case? Because I'd really like to look into this myself.
John's going to come back to us.
Her interview footage is available.
Yeah. Me and Ron did something a little while back in the summer on it.
Yeah.
But since then, David Davis, the MP for Herefordshire, he's the one that's really been pushing for a release. I'm going to try and read his report. So what I want to do before I give any opinion, I want to do my research. So we've got something.
This is why I don't want to say anything yet, because I actually don't know much about the case at all.
There's something going on there, and let's investigate it and let's bring it forward and have a good chat on it. You know, and that's what makes for good journalism when it's been actually researched and there's a bit of intelligence behind it. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I mentioned that earlier.
I'm just trying to find, which was what I thought was on the homepage of my channel, which was all of. Oh yeah, there it is. Crime Theory with John Wedger. There we go. Okay, so obviously some of you are probably new to all this. John and I have been doing this show for a while. The whole first series is listed here on my channel, where I believe we've got the Jill Dando episode, and then we've got all of the dodgy and cold cases that we've gone over too, John. Police corruption. There's a whole whack here. We did do an episode on Letby, but for some reason it's not there. And you will also be able to find the 3-part series, The Devil Decoded, that I done with Stephen French, which is on my homepage as well. So if you want to get deeper into all of that, you can do. Now, John, very, very important question. What is your recommendations for a biscuit?
Well, I've just been. Someone has left some digestives here, but when I was working with the probation service last week, one of the lads brought in a chocolate biscuit with caramel chocolate on it, and it has to be the king of the biscuit.
The Caramac, like the Caramac chocolate.
Yeah, it's like chocolate. You know, a McVitie's
digestive,
chocolate, with the Caramac chocolate.
Chocolate hobnobs and babies, mate. Dip them in coffee.
Hobnobs are good too. But listen, Uber, cheers for coming and joining us tonight, mate. We will be coming into a couple of weeks. We're doing the Letby update. I'm going to drag Jane. Jane, I'm going to drag you in just a couple of minutes. I'm going to let you give it a chance to get yourself ready, and we've got a time for at least 1 or 2 more people, and then it's I'll take us into the end of the show. Now, where are you, Jane? Here you are. Jane, are you with us? Give Jane just a minute.
I am. I've just unmuted. I'll just turn my TV down.
That's all right. No problem. No problem.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Lovely. I just unmuted my TV. I just need to put my microphone on.
That's all right. No problem. No problem. Well, you're live with myself and John. Anything you want to throw over to us?
Yeah. I'm just going to try and put a little tiny bit of sound on. Will that interfere at all? Because
if we can hear it, it'll interfere. Yeah. Are you struggling to be able to hear me?
Yeah. I can't hear you at all. I've got my phone up loud. I haven't got it disconnected. I haven't got it connected to Bluetooth. I'll just double check. Sorry about this.
That's all right.
I thought I was all set to go. Bluetooth. Hello?
Yep, we can hear you. You still there?
Yeah, I can hear you a bit better. So
okay, that's great. Good. Okay, so hit us with your question or your point, Sergio.
So yeah, I've got a few points really over the whole thing. I came in last week. I'm sorry I've been away this week, because I know that you wanted to make some contact. So I'm just looking at a blank screen at the moment, so I'm really sorry. So yeah, there's quite a few things gone over, and there's this week. One of the things that you did mention, and I'm really sorry, John, that I didn't. I don't recall exactly what you was referring to, because there was quite a few topics, weren't there? And I've been in and out of the kitchen in the front room and stuff like that. So you mentioned about the height. I think it was about that therapy.
The what therapy?
The height,
Yeah,
did you say?
there was a therapy. There was a somebody who was convicted. He was having therapy or something. Someone was giving them therapy, so they got them down to the height.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Do you want me to go? Do you want me to explain that again?
Are you wanting John to go into that, Jane?
No, now I've got my phone up the right way. I can hear you properly. Sorry about that. I'm such an idiot.
Yeah, sorry, Jane. We're gonna have to hurry as well, because we're getting towards the end of the show.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
I can't believe I did it twice. Sorry. So my point is this: my very first earliest memory of abuse in an actual place, I can remember standing and looking up at his wife fronts as he was standing. So I was up. So that piece of information that John's just said is absolutely spot on, because that height thing, that makes a difference. That can also give an indicator of the age of the child as well.
Yes.
Like, because of the height, and that is where I'm going on. When I had to give my statement many years ago, which I did, I gave that, how old are you? Well, I can't remember, but I can remember looking up, but I also remember the climb up the stairs. My mother was at the bottom of the stairs with the door open up the stairs, and I was only going to the bathroom, and his door was open, and I just need to go in there, and it was like I expected what was going to happen. I remember that feeling. It was weird.
Well, the point of what she was doing was getting this man to feel like the empowerment or the disempowerment that position put him in, and she was demanding that he opened her trousers, because she knew that the moment he went down to that level, he is now going to be that 5-year-old emotionally broken child. So that was her thing, was to bring them down. And she knew that the moment he acquiesced to it, she had him as a child. He was now the child. No matter that he was this big, 7.5 foot tall, big, strong, muscular black guy, she said he was no physical threat to her, because he was now the child. So she decided to put him through that disempowerment and that pervert thing where now unbutton my trousers. So whereas an adult would never go near a child would never go near an adult's trousers. And the moment she did that, and she insisted, he was just disempowered and started crying and saying, "No, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it." And then afterwards, when she brought him back, sorry, coughing away.
You're getting taken out by a biscuit, John.
That normal level. Just a bit more.
I've got my chocolate biscuits here anyway, so I can just uncrackle them.
John, those aren't SIS biscuits, are they? They weren't dropped off by like a suspicious officer.
I nicked them off the table.
Oh,
sorry, I'm sorry.
But it's when she brought him back, and she said, "So how dare you go on about consent?" She said, "Because you'd never had the strength to do it to me."
Exactly. I mean, that is like, for me, there's only one version of therapy for people like that. But the fact that she did that to put him in that position, because nobody can actually admit anything until they admit it to themselves. Right. So no nonce is ever going to go anywhere and say, "Oh yeah, I did it." They're not going to do that.
Well, the thing is, they are emotionally broken children. emotionally broken children.
Correct. Absolutely. I mean, it's them, right? It's just like an everyday thing. It's like nothing. You're nothing. I remember taking me to the bathroom even. I'm okay to talk about this because I'm sorry if it's triggering anyone, but to wash my mouth, to wash my hands, to brush my teeth, and still to this day I can't stand the brand of soap and things like that.
Was that post event that you were made to do that?
Yeah, post event.
Yeah. Because so he's covering himself there, wasn't he?
Yes, but my mother was at the bottom of the stairs listening to it all, and little did I know that she knew.
Yeah, so it comes back down to what I was saying, that 80% of it in the home with a complicit mother and an absent father.
Well, no, my dad was present. That's the whole point. It was her brother.
So the abuser wasn't your dad. It was about
No.
But it wasn't a Pakistani grooming gang figure or anything like that.
No. But when you're looking back through the history of all this, like opening things up, the time for me. So I was born in early 70s, and I was a child. So if you look at what was going on then, that gives you an idea of. I remember when I look back now, thinking I was, I can remember coming back asleep at night, but feeling drugged, feeling asleep. Like, when you're asleep, because I've been drugged as well and R-rugged, sorry, Ron. So, I've got a big story, and it's something that I want to work with you on. I'm sorry this week I've been away a bit. It's been a bit of a hectic week, so I did say I'd get back to you after the show, but okay.
Can I ask you,
about that, but
did you go on to become a mother yourself?
Yes, that was me with the ESP lady.
And oh right, okay, yeah. And you broke the circle?
Yes, that's me. Same lady.
Well done.
Same count.
Oh, good. Well done.
I just wanted to reassure you because, like, I've kind of kept this bit that I'm on here with you to myself, like, and then today I told my son, who's a grown adult, because he's, wanted to make sure that I was protected. I didn't say, I said, and I said, how does Discord work? Is it okay, safe? And he's into tech and all that, and he said, yeah, Mum, as long as you're safe as ours is, and said who was on and what it was about, and he's like, yeah, go for it, Mum. He's been saying to me for a long time, you need your story to be out there and to be told, because it can tell a lot of things about a lot of things.
Yeah, and this is what I did. I worked with a survivor called Bill Maloney. Do you know Bill Maloney? Pie Mash Films?
I don't know.
Anyway, and he just said, very popular down here. He just said, Johnny, your job is the world needs to know what they did to us. We can't leave this world until the world needs to know what went on. And it does. It needs to know what went on. It needs to know what went on.
100%.
It doesn't, I think that I do also agree on the fact, I don't know, sorry if it hasn't been mentioned yet, but I do also agree on the fact that they are trying to normalise it in every single way, everywhere you look, and it's a drip. Drip.
They just turn it up 1%. Turn it up
it's over everything, and it's in all buying organisations, corporate organisations, even the little things you buy. There's, it's like drip, drip, drip. Things get dearer, we get poorer, they get richer. Guess what? Now we control you. You're going to your mouth. I can't tell you, right? Thank you very much for all the love on the side chat. I'm looking on my TV screen, so I can see you now. So hi, sorry.
And one of the ones pushing all this is people like Katy Perry, and that's Russell Brand's ex-wife, pushing all this filth and nonsense, and Madonna's doing the same, and Miley Cyrus, and they shouldn't even be on the television.
What do you think, just quickly, just from a incarceration point of view, with the High Court's ruling on the definition of woman in the UK this week.
Oh yeah, well, well, what an incredible breath of fresh air for a change. I mean, we need a bit of a result, don't we? So I saw some angry spiky-haired woman was screaming that she's going to appeal this and just screaming and screaming.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
screaming.
I've seen a lot
common
of
sense prevailed that day. So lovely.
I've seen a lot of incredibly violent ensuing or trying to ensue violent statements made by some very interesting groups of people. But yeah, basically in the UK, there was a legal documentation that has passed that defines what a woman is, so that female shared spaces, prisons, bathrooms, all of these things can remain for what the UK
it was of course, and it was a massive sort of thumbs up for common sense that day and common law and everything else. So
I'll tell you one thing we need though. 100% we need a sports category for trans athletes, because the whole women, especially
definition.
100%, yeah. Because I mean,
well, the other thing is have that, and also let them take steroids and performance enhancing drugs as well.
Well, listen, adults can do whatever they want. I just think when it comes to full contact combat sports, and you've got a woman, biological woman, and a born transition male to female, and that woman gets her freaking eye socket destroyed in like 2 hits.
I know.
Do you see what I'm saying? That's where I've got a major issue. Do you know what I'm saying?
Let them have their own Olympics.
Yeah, I think so too.
The trans steroid Olympics.
No. Listen. So, if we're going to have that, can we please have the Super Olympics, where all performance enhancing drugs are legal, right? You can be dosed up to that. Because John, in 2025, right? No, John, in 2025, do you want to see the 100 meters done in 9 seconds or 0.9 of a second? Do you know what I'm saying?
I've got a better idea. Why don't you hand out sweets to the crowd as we go in, and then we can all be on the same page?
Honest to God, I'm just saying, I want the Super Olympics, man. The Super Olympics.
I'm with you.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
You know that China's going to splice humans and dolphins together, and we're going to see some aquatics that we've never seen before.
The hybrid Olympics. Yeah.
The hybrid Olympics, yeah.
Well, even if they were,
we were all wrong.
We watched it.
Yeah. No, well, listen, I'm just saying, jungle is massive. Yeah.
I'm all up for that. With one changing room.
Yeah, I just want to say, look, if you're saying that because of the movie Human Traffic from back in the day, I know exactly where you're coming from. But listen, Jane, thank you for coming and joining us. I imagine we're going to be hearing a lot more from you. Well, thank you for joining us, first of all. Now, there's a name that's being mentioned, the WW name in the side chat. John and I have been in fact, the reason that John and I got introduced to each other was because of a project that I had spent months planning to do with exactly the man in question in the side chat. So maybe at some point, John and I'll have a chat about that and see if we can get that rolling again. And I'll be slapping it over on my channel because controversial. But we've got one more call from the very, very awesome, our very own mod, the cottage cheese and pineapple eating Lisa B. How are you, Lisa?
You're so funny. Hang on a second. I'm good. How are you? And John, it's nice to see you again. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you very much.
I've spoken to you before in the past.
Yeah.
My thing is about how the corrupt police are treated when they've been busted for CP or CSA.
Right.
The reason I'm asking is I was systematically abused as a kid for up to 23 years by somebody in my family who was a cop, also very, very religious, came from a Pentecostal background, but I only served 4.5 years. I was the whistleblower. I only served 4.5 years. He was sentenced for 9. But still managed to keep all his benefits. He ended up on the registry, and he is still trying to get off the registry and trying to. I don't know how to handle it.
Right, okay, let's break this down.
He shouldn't be allowed off and he
Right,
shouldn't really be having any benefits. He's kept his bloody retirement and all the rest of it.
pension.
Yeah.
It's wrong.
All right,
It's wrong.
Yeah. Okay, let's break this down. What did he get convicted for?
R-wording and domestic violence, all of the above. I could write a book on what he's done.
Right, and the R-wording, was it on a child or an adult?
A child from a very young age. It was myself and my sister.
And I'm almost certain that there are certain offences that they can have their pension revoked. And let me look into this, because I think that may be one of them. So
Yeah.
But
the fact that he's trying to creep his way into church circles and places where there would be kids is worrisome to me.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm in the US. I can't do bugger all about it.
What we need to know is the terms and conditions of his release and his position on the sex offenders register, because they give him a time scale. Some are for life, some are for 10 years, some are for whatever. If it's for life, there may well be other conditions that he's not to get caught up in benevolent organisations involving children and the demographic of the victims in which he abused. And that and if he breaches that, it's a criminal offence.
Okay, and I don't even know how I would find that out, John, because I'm here in the States and.
But what area did it take place?
In the Midlands.
Right. So if it's West Midlands Police will have a sex offenders register officer, right? SORO, SORO, and they'll be the ones that will be there to manage this man, no matter where he moves to. If he's moved to elsewhere, then they can tell you where he's moved, and there'll be terms and conditions in relating to his liberty. And they might be that he is not allowed to get caught up in any way in any child organisation and stuff like that. Now, if he is, then this is a problem. This needs to be sorted out.
Right. What bothers me too is I had an email a few years back from the West Midlands Police asking if he could be taken off the registry, and I'm like, absolutely, unequivocally no.
They asked your opinion if you were happy for him to be taken off of it.
Yes. I still probably have the email somewhere.
Oh, okay.
And I said no, and my sister said the same.
And is she a victim as well?
Oh yeah. The man was positively evil.
Yeah. Listen, the thing to do, right? My email address is John, Jon, all little, Jon Wedger, foundation at gmail.com.
Okay.
Right. Email me, and then we'll talk in the week, and I'll see what digging I can do for you. Okay.
Yeah, and if you need me to get anything off John, emails or anything like that after the show, I can fire them over.
Yeah, Ron's got all my details anyway.
Lisa's one of the family, one of the soldiers.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll have a chat, Lisa. And
I appreciate you guys.
No problem, Reggie.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Now, John, just want to say, Lisa has got her own small dog charity where she looks after a whole bunch of tiny dogs. Just to show you how nice a soul this lady has, and we all love a tiny dog.
My friend Dave's after a little tiny dog. If you got a spare one.
Oh,
is Dave in the US, or because otherwise we have to mail him over?
No, he's over here.
In the States, John. I'm in Northwest Florida Panhandle.
Oh, you're over there.
Yes.
Cheers, man.
Yes, I am. I'm actually ironically about an hour and a half from where Russell Brand lives. It's weird.
Oh my word!
He's been cozying up to a couple of friends of mine too. It's so strange.
He's going to need all the friends he can get, isn't he? Do you know what I mean?
No doubt.
But in respect to what you're saying, that all of this went on in the UK West Midlands area, yeah.
Yes, yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Okay. All right. Well, we can deal with that.
And I can give it. I appreciate that so much. I don't feel like people are safe because there was information that was provided to me about a couple, which I still have, a couple of years ago, which I also reported to the police, where he was involved with another member of the family, not a child, but it was not good.
Listen,
That
Lisa.
way.
These people don't stop. They don't stop. They're
No, they don't.
manipulators.
No, they
They're
don't.
just like the ultimate salesman. They're constantly on. They're badgering people all the time. It's just they're
Right.
unbelievable. They are unbelievable.
Well, here's the other thing, John. My mother passed away 6 months ago, which hit me hard. She stayed with him after he got out of prison, which sideswiped me. It's a long story, but I'm not going to go into it now. But I told him absolutely no contact with me, period, not whatsoever. And he has the gall to send me a very religious-looking card, and I haven't had the heart to even read it. I've kept it, but I haven't read it because I can't bring myself to do it.
Jesus.
So he's he's manipulative, conniving. He was even diagnosed narcissistic with some sociopathic tendencies. Now I think he's a pure sociopath. I don't think there's any tendencies about it.
Well, like they say with a narcissist, the only contact is no contact. So just stay away from them, you know.
And he hates it. So I'm like, nope.
Yeah, the only contact is no contact. Just hang around with nice people, but you're slowly picking up the accent. You know that.
I know. I've been here. I've lived over half my life here in the States, John. I lived in Pennsylvania when I was a kid, and then I've lived in Northwest Florida 20-something years now. 22 years.
There's quite a strange one. It's called the Montserrat Irish, right? There's a Caribbean island called Montserrat. And when during all the slavey times and everything else, when they sent the African slaves to Caribbean islands, Montserrat, they sent at the same time they sent white Irish slaves to Montserrat, along with the African slaves. So you've got this mixed race culture out there that actually speak like they're Irish.
All right.
Yeah,
it's really strange. Called the Montserrat Irish.
And suspiciously, up in the South American hills, you've got small pockets that speak German fluently. But that's a whole other show. That's a whole other show.
There's a Bavarian community in Argentina.
Yep. Even the architecture is very, very, very German. But look, Lisa, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for coming and being here. And we'll see you again soon.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
No problem. All right.
Take care.
Thank you, Lisa.
John.
Bye-bye.
All right, John. Another week, another fantastic show. We're once again, people loving it. I just want to say thank you so much for giving up your time, John. As always, thank you to the Sidejet and the mods for being here and enjoying the show, because it's one of my favorite shows that we do here. So just thank you.
The calling thing seems to work quite well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. The community, like for me, ever since sort of day one on YouTube, I've always had a big community focus, and the last sort of 6 months we've been getting back to that, trying to figure out ways of integrating and more of the community to have a say. Side chat's great and all of that, but being able to actually talk to people is great, you know. So we're integrating 1980s call-in technology.
Right. So my homework is I'm gonna order the Russell Brand book.
Yeah.
And if it comes in a week, I'm gonna try and read it by the end of the week. And the other one is look at the report on Lucy Letby.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And we look forward to it. Thank you, John. Thank you, Side Chat. Thank you, Sean Atwood channel. Thank you to the mods. We'll see you on the next one. It's my birthday on Wednesday. I've got a whole bunch of interviews planned for next week. We've got a man called Rafa, 18 and a half years in the elite law enforcement, from DEA to narcotics to all the badass ones you'd make Netflix series about, John, right? Those guys. Then we have a human transportation victim who was present at Bohemia Grove. We've also got a Pulitzer award-winning author that I'm interviewing. There's a lot coming this week. And Friday night, John, next Friday at 11 o'clock. What are you doing? Are you working?
No, but I can be available if you need.
I would very much like you to be available. That would be awesome.
Okay, and can I have a big shout out to our man, Mr. Pepsi Watson, who's he's now out of prison after doing a decade more than he should and whatnot. So he's been released from his IPP sentence. He's doing incredibly well, and of course he was one of the originals on the Sean Atwood show and everything else. So big shout out to Pepsi. He's always been very loyal.
He should go full circle and come back on and tell his story.
Yeah, this is what he wants to do. There's terms and conditions with the Home Office and everything else, but man who's gone into prison, educated himself. He's up for many sort of academic awards, and still the same old Pepsi that sort of started out 8-9 years ago on Sean's show. So
yeah,
he's there.
Well,
So
look,
God
Sean,
bless Pepsi.
It's going to be an interesting few weeks, a lot of interviews. And I just want to say once again, thank you for being here. John's link is in the description. Make sure you're following him. Thank you all for being here. I'm Ron Swanson. Like, share, subscribe, push all that stuff out. And big surprise and big treat for you guys. Now featuring John Wedger next week, 11 o'clock UK time. Stay tuned because you're going to love it. See you in the next one. Peace.